Chapter 129. Now, Yu Shuyun clearly realized how big the gap was between her and Ji Yu. So she made up her mind that she must go to the main alchemist guild to study hard. At the very least, she couldn't be a burden to Ji Yu in the future. At this moment, Yu Shuyun's eyes were full of determination, and she was even more determined to achieve her dream. Ji Yu, who was wholeheartedly watching others refine pills, naturally didn't notice Yu Shuyun's strange behavior. Ji Yu constantly watched others refine pills and gained a lot of alchemy experience. However, on a high platform not far away from him, there were 4 respected elders sitting on it. They were all important figures who had organized the Grand Alchemy Conference this time. One of the grey-robed elders stared at Ji Yu and whispered to the other elders beside him, "I wonder if you found out what kind of pill that black-robed youth refined." "What kind of pill?" "It should be a low-grade or mid-grade second-grade pill." "Why are you suddenly asking this, Elder Yuan?" "I guess it's also a low-grade second-grade pill. I know the girl next to him. She's only a mid-grade second-grade alchemist. In just half an hour, even if she has someone to cooperate with, she can only refine a low-grade second-grade pill at most. I also have some impression of this girl. She seems to be Yu Lingfeng's daughter. I remember that this girl has a deep obsession with our main association. Unfortunately, she seems to have chosen the wrong partner." The other 3 elders responded one after another. Obviously, they didn't carefully watch Ji Yu and Yu Shuyun's refining process. Otherwise, they wouldn't have not known what kind of pill it was. The grey-robed elder who was addressed as Elder Yuan shook his head slightly. No, that youth is holding the soul recovery pill in his hand." When Elder Yuan said this, the other 3 elders were stunned. Then, they exclaimed in unison, "Soul recovery pill? How could they not know that the soul recovery pill was a kind of low-grade third-grade pill? Moreover, the difficulty was higher than ordinary low-grade third-grade pills." "Elder Yuan, you must be joking. How could those 2 little fellows be able to refine an inferior third-grade soul recovery pill?" "That's right. Yu Shuyun, that little girl, is only a level 2 alchemist. It's impossible for her to come into contact with a level 3 medicinal pill. Unless that other youth has the ability to easily refine the soul recovery pill. I've heard of that young man before, but he's extremely strong in martial arts. It's rumored that he defeated an awakened spirit body, but I've never heard of him in terms of alchemy." After hearing what the 3 of them said, Elder Yuan couldn't help but laugh and say, "Hearing you say that, it seems that this young man is an incredible super genius." If these 3 old fellows hadn't mentioned it, he really wouldn't have known that the youth he had never met before was so stunning. In terms of martial arts, he was able to defeat an awakened postnatal spiritual body cultivator. In terms of alchemy, he was able to help an intermediate grade 2 alchemist refine an inferior grade 3 medicinal pill. In terms of martial arts, there was no need to say much. The words acquired spirit body were enough to prove everything. As for alchemy, for example, a level 2 alchemist wanted to refine a level 2 medicinal pill with the help of a level 1 alchemist. The difficulty was much higher than that of a level 2 alchemist refining a level 2 medicinal pill alone. Not to mention the current situation, it showed that the young man's alchemy level was at least above the intermediate grade 3 alchemist. Otherwise, it was impossible to achieve this level. The other 3 elders were still confused. Elder Yuan didn't explain much. He just looked at Ji Yu with a smile, as if he had found a rare treasure. However, even if Elder Yuan explained, the 3 elders probably wouldn't believe it. After all, to possess monstrous strength in both martial Dao and alchemy, it was practically impossible for this kind of prodigy who was skilled in both martial Dao and alchemy to appear. Chapter 130. Ji Yu watched the other contestants refine pills for a full 3.5 hours before the competition finally ended. When the bell rang, the surrounding sound concealment array also gradually lost its effect, and one could hear the clamor of the spectators around them. At this time, most of the contestants had already completed their pill refining, and a small number of teams seemed to have encountered some accidents. All of them were dejected. It was normal for there to be joy and sorrow in a competition. Especially that Liu Ling, who seemed to have performed exceptionally well in this competition, with a face full of arrogance. At this moment, Elder Yuan on the stage slowly opened his mouth and said, "All contestants, please hand over the pills that you have refined to this old man." Although his voice was not loud, all the contestants in the arena could hear it clearly. Hearing the old man's words, everyone followed the rules, and Ji-yu was no exception. A few minutes later, everyone returned to their original positions. During this time, Liu Ling continued to provoke Ji-yu with his eyes, but he was completely ignored by Ji-yu. Next, this old man will announce the results of the competition. Elder Yuan continued, 10th place winner, Chilling Ancient Cities Zhao Qiu and Zhao Kang, 9th place winner, Falling Snow Ancient Cities Wu Xinran and Li Zheng. Starting from the 10th place, Elder Yuan announced the results one by one. At first, most of the audience did not pay much attention to it, but when Elder Yuan announced the 3rd place, almost everyone began to listen attentively. 3rd place winner, Liu Ling and Liu Tong from Brilliant Ancient City. As soon as Elder Yuan said this, many people around him were shocked. What's going on? Why is Liu Ling only in 3rd place? Shouldn't he be at least in the top 2? Yeah, I thought I heard wrong. With Liu Ling's alchemy skills, even if he isn't first, he should be second, right? Then I guess the 1st place is that beauty from the Nangong family, and the 2nd place is probably a dark horse that came out halfway. Yeah, I just don't know where this dark horse came from, to actually be able to suppress Liu Ling. Not only that. In the arena, Liu Ling was even more surprised. He never thought that he would end up in 3rd place. He could understand why Nangong Morqing was at the top of the list, but he could not figure out who was at the 2nd place. Before the start of the alchemy conference this time, Liu Ling practically knew the information of all the participants like the back of his hand. Only Nangong Morqing's group's alchemy level was on par with his group. There was no second person who was better than him in alchemy, not to mention that he had performed exceptionally this time. Even the 3 old men sitting next to Elder Yuan were very surprised. They originally thought that Liu Ling would be either 1st or 2nd. They didn't expect that he would be ranked 3rd. While everyone was still in shock, Elder Yuan announced the 2nd place. 2nd place goes to Nangong Morqing and Nangong Kuei from Bright Moon Ancient City. At this moment, the crowd was once again in an uproar. F***CK, what's going on with this competition? Even Nangong Morqing didn't get 1st place? This is too strange. Nangong Morqing should be firmly at the top of the list, right? Since Nangong Morqing is in 2nd place, then who is in 1st place? Other than Nangong Morqing, I really can't think of anyone else who can occupy 1st place. For a moment, the crowd was filled with discussions. Only Jiang Yuexin's beautiful eyes were filled with joy, because she knew that 1st place was definitely Ji-yu. Although Jiang Yuechu's face did not change, she couldn't help but feel a trace of joy in her heart because Ji-yu had won 1st place. On the other side, Liu Ling was stunned again. He was stunned on the spot, and his jaw almost fell to the ground. Nangong Morqing was ranked 2nd, which was once again beyond his expectations. Including Nangong Morqing himself, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. A rare trace of emotion appeared on his cold and emotionless face. Elder Yuan paused for a moment, and his tone became much more solemn as he announced, "Finally, the 1st place goes to Ji-yu and Yu Shuyun from Chaoyang Ancient City." At this moment, the scene completely exploded, and everyone was suffocating. Chapter 131. After being stunned for a while, everyone came back to their senses one after another. I didn't hear wrongly, right? The 1st place is actually Ji-yu and Yu Shuyun? F***CK, Yu Shuyun is only a 2nd-grade intermediate alchemist, and that guy called Ji-yu is even more so. How could they possibly win against Nangong Morqing and Liu Ling? I think they can barely make it into the top 10, right? Cheating. They definitely cheated. I think so too. With Yu Shuyun and Ji-yu's team, it's impossible for them to win against Nangong Morqing and Liu Ling's teams under normal circumstances. Sigh. I really didn't expect such a thing to happen in this year's alchemy conference. Very soon, more and more people on the scene suspected that Ji-yu and Yu Shuyun had cheated, and they all claimed that they wanted to seek justice. Liu Ling couldn't hold it in anymore and said to Ji-yu in a sarcastic tone, "I really didn't expect you to actually dare to cheat in the alchemy conference." However, Ji didn't care about the voices coming from the surroundings. He didn't even look at Liu Ling and directly ignored Liu Ling. Realizing that he was being ignored, Liu Ling was instantly even more furious and kept mocking Ji. Silence. However, at this moment, Elder Yuan suddenly shouted, and the surroundings immediately quieted down. Everyone's gaze returned to Elder Yuan once again. According to my judgment, the medicinal pills that Ji and Yu Shuyun refined are third-grade inferior medicinal pills, soul recovery pills. Moreover, the color of the pills is extremely good, and they deserve to be the first place, Elder Yuan said calmly. Elder Yuan said indifferently, also, this old man is personally overseeing this competition. If you have any objections, you can confront this old man face to face. Following these words, everyone was completely dumbfounded. All of them were extremely astonished and speechless. The inferior third-grade medicinal pills, soul recovery pills, had extremely good color. They were completely dumbfounded. They simply couldn't believe that Yu Shuyun and Ji had not only refined a level 3 pill, but also used only half an hour to do so. At the same time, Liu Ling was also dumbfounded. Nangong Morching stared at Ji, who was not far away. Not only was there not the slightest bit of unwillingness in her cold eyes, there was even a faint flush on her delicate face. Especially the three old men sitting next to Elder Yuan, they were all extremely shocked. Recalling what they had discussed before, a thought appeared in their minds. Could it be that this young man named Ji was really a level 3 intermediate alchemist? If it was true, then this talent was too terrifying. If there are no more questions, let's continue. At this time, Elder Yuan glanced around and continued, the first place reward is 100,000 gold coins and the qualification to study at the Master Alchemist Association. The second place reward is 50,000 gold coins and the qualification to study at the Master Alchemist Association. The third place reward is 30,000 gold coins and the qualification to study at the Master Alchemist Association. The fourth and fifth place rewards. Hearing Elder Yuan mention the rewards, Ji was instantly delighted. He remembered that Yu Shuyun promised to give all the rewards to him. This also meant that he could get all 100,000 gold coins. This was 100,000 gold coins. He didn't even know how many demonic beasts he had to kill to earn this much gold coins. After getting these 100,000 gold coins, Ji wouldn't have to worry about not having enough gold coins for a long time. After the alchemy conference ended, Ji and Yu Shuyun received the first place reward and left the venue together. After that, Yu Shuyun didn't want a single gold coin. All 100,000 gold coins went to Ji. I'm preparing to leave for the Master Alchemist Association tomorrow. Do you want to go with me? At this time, Yu Shuyun suddenly asked. Chapter 132. Ji thought for a moment and replied, I don't plan to go to the Alchemist Guild for the time being. You should go first. Okay. Yu Shuyun didn't act coquettishly. See you then. Just as Ji was about to say something, she suddenly saw a familiar figure walking in front of her. The owner of this figure was Liu Ling. Liu Ling looked dejected and lifeless, as if he was about to die. Seeing this, Ji's lips curled up slightly, then she said mockingly, Yo, isn't this the famous young Master Liu? How did you become like this? Hearing this voice, Liu Ling finally noticed Ji in front of him. His face was gloomy, and he quickened his steps to go around Ji. However, just as Liu Ling was about to go around her, Ji said calmly, Remember, in my eyes, you'll always be trash. Hearing this, Liu Ling's face instantly turned extremely ugly, but he couldn't refute. At this moment, there was a trace of hatred in his eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. After that, Ji and Yu Shuyun said goodbye. On the way back to Ji's residence, not sure if it was a coincidence or not, she bumped into Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. Congratulations, Ji, you've won first place. Jiang Yushin skipped over and said cheerfully. Millimeter Ji nodded, then said, Speaking of which, you haven't gone back yet. I thought you guys had gone back long ago. How could we go back so quickly? Jiang Yuchu smiled and said, Yushin and I are going to cook dinner for you later to reward you. You. Don't misunderstand. Jiang Yushin turned her face away and said shyly, I just saw that you were tired the whole afternoon, so I wanted to let you relax. Ji-Yu's face suddenly stiffened, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. I think we should forget about it. There's no need to trouble you guys. How was this AF** king reward? This was simply torture. If it was just Jiang Yuchu alone, it would be fine. After all, her cooking skills had improved a lot. However, with Jiang Yushin, it would definitely be an unsightly dark cuisine. Let's go back quickly. However, Ji-Yu didn't care about Ji-Yu's opinion. She reached out and hugged Ji-Yu's left arm, then pulled Ji-Yu directly. You. Seeing this, Jiang Yushin became anxious and hurriedly chased after him. She forcefully suppressed her shyness and snatched Ji-Yu's other arm. Just like that, Jiang Yuchu hugged Ji-Yu on the left, and Jiang Yushin on the right. Along the way, they attracted countless envious gazes. Damn, isn't that Ji-Yu? He's even being hugged by the two sisters from the city lord's residence. Looks like those two sisters are jealous of each other. I really have to give it to them. F***ck, it's really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Not only is he inferior to him in terms of martial arts, but his attainments in alchemy are also inferior to him in terms of picking up girls. However, Ji-Yu couldn't feel happy at all, because what lay ahead was hell. Chapter 133. Ding. Master's body has been injured, the experience gained from the yellow rank inferior profound skill thick earth armor, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master's body has been injured, the experience gained from the yellow rank inferior profound skill thick earth armor, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master, the yellow rank inferior profound skill thick earth armor has successfully broken through to the perfection realm. After being tormented by the two sisters, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, Ji-Yu's thick earth armor had been raised to the perfection realm. Now that she was finally free, Ji-Yu was somewhat speechless. Oh right, I'll write a list. When you go back, help me inquire about these materials. As Ji-Yu spoke, she wrote on the paper, these materials are used to refine a pill that can completely cure the poison in your mother's body. Hearing that it was about their mother, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yuishin's expressions immediately turned serious. After a while, Ji-Yu wrote down all the rare materials on the paper and handed it over to the two sisters. At the same time, Jiang Yuechu's eyes suddenly flashed with a light, as if she had an idea. She snatched the paper from Ji-Yu's hands and walked out of the door. I'll go back and inquire about these materials first, you guys continue. Jiang Yuchu turned around and said, and even gave Ji-Yu a look. However, Ji-Yu did not understand the meaning of this look, and even after thinking for a while, she still could not understand. Ji-Yu, are you really confident in refining the 7 profound spirit clearing pill? At this time, Jiang Yushin asked. Of course. Ji-Yu replied. His current attainments in the Tao of Alchemy had already reached the 3rd grade of Alchemy Master, and adding the 999 times success rate, he was definitely able to refine the 7 profound spirit clearing pill. Jiang Yushin nodded happily. However, the two of them soon ran out of topics to talk about. The atmosphere in the room couldn't help but become a little awkward. By the way, do you know what your sister's gaze meant? Ji-Yu was the first to break the awkwardness. How would I know what that means? Just now, Jiang Yushin didn't notice Jiang Yuechu's eyes at all. Furthermore, at this time, Jiang Yushin pursed her lips, as if she was throwing a tantrum. You're still thinking about my sister at this time, and you still say that you're purely interested in her. Indeed, it's only a little interesting. What else could it be? Ji-Yu said. If that's the case, then prove it to me. Jiang Yushin said. Ji-Yu was just about to ask what she wanted to prove when Jiang Yushin raised her head slightly, closed her eyes slowly, and stood on tiptoe. Seeing Jiang Yushin like this, Ji-Yu couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Then he realized that this was, oh, you want me to touch your head, I understand. Ji-Yu nodded as if he understood. As he spoke, he reached out and touched Jiang Yuishin's head. Even though Jiang Yuishin's tiptoes were so high, the little lowly was still a little lowly, and it was still very easy to touch her head. Jiang Yushin suddenly opened her eyes, and her whole person was stunned. Soon, her eyes gradually revealed a look of anger, and she shook off Ji-Yu's hand with a face full of shame and anger, and said coquettishly, "You big idiot, Immediately, she ran away angrily. Ji was puzzled, and he didn't understand why he was being scolded. Chapter 134. Now that Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin had returned, Ji could focus on his own matters. Currently, my martial arts cultivation is not particularly lacking, and my alchemy attainments are also sufficient. However, in terms of formations, I'm only a first-grade formation master. It's time for me to focus on improving my formation attainments. Ji considered for a moment and decided to improve his formation attainments. He immediately set off to buy materials. As the materials required for drawing formation diagrams were rather one-sided, he had to go to various shops to collect them. After a long time, Ji finally collected some materials that could be used to draw formation diagrams. These materials were not much, only enough to draw 3 or 4 first-grade formation diagrams. However, this was enough for him. After all, this was just a preliminary attempt. Soon, Ji returned to his residence. He took out these materials and immediately began to draw formation diagrams. Ding! Detected that master has begun to draw first-grade formation diagrams. The success rate of drawing formation diagrams has increased by 999 times. Not only did the success rate of refining pills increase by 999 times, but the success rate of drawing formation diagrams also increased by 999 times. However, this did not exceed Ji's expectations, so he was not too surprised. After half an hour, although his technique was very rusty, Ji had successfully drawn a defensive formation diagram. Ding! Master has successfully drawn a first-grade defensive formation diagram. Formation attainments gained experience points, 20 by 999 times. Then, Ji began to draw the second formation diagram. After the first attempt, Ji's technique was clearly much more proficient this time. His speed was much faster than before. Ding! Master has successfully drawn a first-grade offensive formation diagram. Formation attainments gained experience points, 20 by 999 times. Now that he had drawn 2 formation diagrams, the remaining materials were only enough to draw a support formation diagram. Ji did not stop for long and continued to draw the third formation diagram. Ding! Master has successfully drawn a first-grade support formation diagram. Formation attainments gained experience points, 20 by 999 times. After drawing the third formation diagram, Ji's formation attainments also had a breakthrough. Ding! Congratulations, Master! Your array formation mastery has successfully broken through to become a superior first-grade array master. In Chaoyang Ancient City, and even in the entire Kanglan Empire, array master was a very rare profession. As a result, the materials required to draw the formation diagram were very obscure. At least in a small place like Chaoyang Ancient City, it was impossible to collect many of these materials. Only by leaving Chaoyang Ancient City and reaching the Royal City would they be able to find more array materials. Therefore, Ji could only temporarily give up on improving her formation skills and wait until she arrived at the Royal City. Not long after, Jiang Yuchu arrived. Didn't Jiang Yushin come this time? Not seeing Jiang Yushin, Ji asked curiously. I also want to know, did you do something to Yushin? Jiang Yuchu asked in confusion. I didn't do anything. Ji said innocently. He really did not know what he did to make Jiang Yushin so angry. Alright, let's get down to business first. As she spoke, Jiang Yuchu took out a piece of gauze. This contains the materials you need for alchemy. However, the materials on that piece of paper are too rare. We have mobilized the entire Castellan Mansion's forces, but we still haven't found 2 of the materials. Ji took the gauze and flipped it open to take a look. Indeed, 2 materials were still missing. It's okay, I'll find these 2 materials myself. Thank you for your trouble. Ji said. What are you talking about? We're the ones who need your help. We can't even thank you enough. Jiang Yuchu smiled faintly. It's good to smile more like this. Ji nodded. Jiang Yuchu was slightly stunned by Ji's sudden praise. Then, a faint bashful expression appeared on her face with a hint of joy. Jiang Yuchu nodded shyly. Then I'll go find the remaining 2 materials now. Do you want to come with me or go back directly? Ji said. Can I go with you? Jiang Yuchu asked in surprise. Chapter 135. Jiang Yuchu was worried that with her strength, she would drag Ji down. Although she also wanted to be with Ji, she didn't want to be a burden. Of course, you don't have to worry so much. Ji replied. Okay. Jiang Yuchu said happily. Without saying much, Ji immediately left the residence with Jiang Yuchu. First, Ji took Jiang Yuchu to collect information about the 2 missing alchemy materials. Most of the information was almost the same, and only a small part of the information had some discrepancies. Ji used most of the overlapping information as the basis. One of the materials was called cyan mystic vine, which generally grew on a steep rock in the Monster Beast mountain range. It was very rare and needed to be searched very carefully. The other material was called green firefly, which was a strange and precious insect that only grew in medicinal fields. It was also very rare. In layman's terms, this kind of green firefly was very picky and wouldn't appear in all kinds of medicinal fields. Only those large medicinal fields with dense xian qi and heavenly treasures could be seen everywhere could possibly attract them. Where can we find such a big medicinal field? At this time, Jiang Yuchu asked. I'm not particularly sure. At least there shouldn't be such a big medicinal field in the Chaoyang ancient city, so it's impossible to have green firefly. Ji said in a deep voice, we can only go to other ancient cities to have a look. It is said that the Bright Moon ancient city is the most prosperous ancient city in alchemy. There should be such a big medicinal field there. Bright Moon ancient city? Jiang Yuchu thought for a moment and said, you mean the ancient city near our Chaoyang ancient city? Yes, that's the Bright Moon ancient city. Ji nodded and said, it's not far away. Let's set off now. We'll go to the Monster Beast mountain range to find the cyan mystic vine, and then go to the Bright Moon ancient city from there. Based on his understanding of the terrain near the Monster Beast mountain range, the Monster Beast mountain range was not far from the Bright Moon ancient city. As long as he found the right exit of the Demonic Beast mountain range, he would soon reach the Bright Moon ancient city. Speaking of Bright Moon ancient city, Ji couldn't help but think of that ice sculpture, Nangong Morching. She seemed to have a very high status in Bright Moon ancient city. However, he didn't really want to ask that guy for help. At this time, Ji and Jiang Yuchu arrived at the Monster Beast mountain range. As soon as they entered the Demon Beast mountain range, they were attacked by demon beasts. However, the demon beasts in the outer region were very weak. All of them were easily dealt with by Ji. Ding. Master has used the Mystic Intermediate Level Mystic Skill Fist suppressing all directions. Experience gained, 300 * 999x. Ding. Master has used the Mystic Intermediate Level Mystic Skill Fist suppressing all directions. Experience gained, 300 * 999x. Ding. Congratulations Master, the Profound Rank Mid-Level Profound Skill Fist suppressing all directions has successfully broken through to the initial success stage. The fist suppressing all directions was a fist technique with a very wide range. It could cause damage to all targets in the range at the same time. However, in terms of dealing with a single enemy, its power was not as good as the low Profound Rank Mountain Shaking Fist, so Ji rarely used the fist suppressing all directions. However, in the current situation where they could encounter many low-level demon beasts at any time, it was naturally the most effective to use the fist suppressing all directions fist technique to clean up the demon beasts. Chapter 136. After killing countless beasts, Ji and Jiang Yuchu finally arrived at a steep mountain rock. You go over there, I'll go over here. We'll split up to search, it'll be faster this way. At this time, Ji said to Jiang Yuchu. Jiang Yuchu nodded and immediately went to one side to search. She didn't have the chance to help Ji when they were cleaning up the beasts just now. Now she had to help no matter what. At the same time, Ji walked to the other side. Although the green profound vine was rare, it wasn't particularly difficult to find. Less than an hour later, Jiang Yuchu found a green profound vine. Very good, Since the green profound vine has been found, let's set off to the bright moon ancient city. Ji-yu nodded in satisfaction. All right. Finally being able to help Ji-yu, Jiang Yuchu was in a very good mood. Next, Ji-yu didn't continue to walk slowly, but used her movement skill to bring Jiang Yuchu to the bright moon ancient city. Ding. Master has used the intermediate profound rank profound skill myriad flash. Intermediate profound rank profound skill myriad flash gained experience 300 by 999 times. Ding. Master has used the intermediate profound rank profound skill myriad flash. Intermediate profound rank profound skill myriad flash gained experience 300 by 999 times. Not long after, Ji-yu brought Jiang Yuchu to the nearest exit of the Demon Beast mountain range to the Bright Moon ancient city. However, not long after they walked out of the Demon Beast mountain range, they heard the sound of horse hooves behind them. Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu immediately looked back and saw a group of carriages heading in this direction. On the other side, the leader of the carriage team was a middle-aged man. He also saw the young man and woman not far away. He immediately said to the carriage behind him, "Miss, there seems to be a pair of siblings not far ahead." The next moment, a cold and elegant voice came from the carriage. "Let them come up." Yes. The middle-aged man seemed to have obeyed the order and signaled for the carriage to stop slowly. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ji-yu was still minding her own business when she heard the sound of the horses' hooves gradually slowing down. Just as he was feeling perplexed, a voice sounded. "May I ask if the two of you are heading to Bright Moon ancient city?" The middle-aged man in the lead jumped down from a luxurious carriage. "That's right. What is the meaning of this?" Ji-yu asked with narrowed eyes. An unfamiliar group of carriages suddenly stopped for them, which made him feel a little strange. "It's like this. Our miss wants me to ask you if you're willing to go with us," the middle-aged man said. Seeing that this middle-aged man didn't put on any airs, Ji-yu was a little surprised. "Thank you for your kind intentions, but it's not convenient for me to travel with you, so I'll pass." Ji-yu declined politely. Right now, he was rushing towards Bright Moon ancient city. How could he have the time to accompany this slowly moving carriage team? At this moment, a trace of imperceptible displeasure flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. At this time, a young man stood out from the group of hired martial artists. "Brat, you better not fail to appreciate kindness. Yunshin saw that you were pitiful and wanted to take you in out of goodwill." The young man berated Ji-yu. Chapter 137. "So," Ji-yu said indifferently, "so I have to go with you?" "You." However, when the young man was halfway through his sentence, a cold voice interrupted him. "That's enough, Wu Feng." As the cold voice rang out, the young man called Wu Feng actually obediently shut his mouth. At that moment, a young woman walked down from the carriage. She looked to be around 18 years old. She had a pretty face and a thick layer of makeup. All the mercenaries looked at this woman and exclaimed in surprise. However, Ji-yu didn't think that this woman was very pretty. Her face aside, the thick makeup made him feel a little uncomfortable. Ji-yu only took a few glances and didn't continue to pay attention to that woman. "Wu Feng, how many times have I warned you not to call me Yunshin?" At that moment, the woman said to Wu Feng with a displeased expression. Okay, then I'll call you Miss Yunshin." Wu Feng looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Seeing Wu Feng like this, the woman with the heavy makeup also showed a trace of helplessness. "Although we're no longer in the Demon Beast mountain range, there are many bandits and bandits here. We're the Nangong family's carriage team. You'll be safer with us." She didn't want to pay attention to Wu Feng anymore and said to Ji-yu. The reason why she was so kind was because she saw that this young man had a younger sister. She was worried that the bandits would take a fancy to that younger sister. Looking at such a contrast in attitude, Wu Feng lightly clicked his tongue, and his face was full of displeasure. "Nangong family?" Ji-yu muttered. He didn't expect this carriage team to be from the Nangong family. "Ji-yu, why don't we go with them? The Nangong family might have the large medicinal field that we want." At that moment, Jiang Yuchu whispered to Ji-yu. Ji-yu thought about it and nodded. "Okay, then I'll go with you." Ji-yu then said to the woman with the heavy makeup. Ji-yu's sudden change of heart caused everyone present to be slightly stunned. Previously, this brat had said that it was inconvenient, but now he suddenly wanted to go with him. Then, young master, please. However, when Nangong Yunshin was halfway through her sentence, she suddenly noticed a badge on the black-robed youth. This was the badge of a superior grade 1 alchemist. After clearly seeing the badge on the black-robed youth's chest, Nangong Yunshin's beautiful eyes immediately flashed with a trace of surprise. She was very surprised to see such a young superior grade 1 alchemist in this desolate area. This youth looked to be around 16 years old at most, which showed that his talent in alchemy was very outstanding. Nangong Yunshin's eyes flickered slightly as if she was thinking about something. "Why don't the two of you sit in my carriage?" Nangong Yunshin said softly. "Miss, are you joking?" Hearing Nangong Yunshin's words, the middle-aged man was stunned and could not help but ask. The young miss actually allowed two strangers to sit in her carriage. At that moment, Wu Feng naturally heard Nangong Qingmo's words. A sinister look appeared in his eyes as he looked at Ji-yu. This guy who came out of nowhere was actually sitting in the same carriage as Nangong Yunshin. Chapter 138. What's going on? Why would Miss Nangong Yunshin invite a stranger into the carriage for a chat? Yeah, that shouldn't be the case. Could it be that Miss Nangong is interested in this young man? That's even more impossible. Nangong Yunshin is the daughter of an elder in the Nangong family. How could her standards be so low to fancy a little brat who came out of nowhere? At the same time, the surrounding mercenaries also began to discuss. Is there anyone else here who's a superior grade 1 alchemist? Nangong Yunshin asked faintly when she heard the discussion around her. Superior grade 1 alchemist? Everyone was astonished when they heard Nangong Qingmo's voice. They all looked at the black-robed young man stiffly. Only then did they notice that there was indeed a badge on the black-robed young man's chest. However, most of it was covered by the black robe and only a small part was exposed. This was why they didn't notice it before. They couldn't imagine that this young man who looked to be at most 16 years old was actually a superior grade 1 alchemist. However, the one who said that this young man was a superior grade 1 alchemist was Miss Nangong, so they had to believe it even if they didn't. While all the mercenaries were astonished, the middle-aged man was also surprised. Wu Feng's expression was even more gloomy. However, Ji-yu couldn't be bothered with these people and silently led Jiang Yuchu into Nangong Yunshin's carriage. After getting into the carriage, Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu sat together while Nangong Yunshin sat opposite them. "I'm Nangong Yunshin. You two should be siblings, right?" Nangong Yunshin politely brewed 2 cups of tea and placed them in front of Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu. Jiang Yuchu was about to deny it when she heard Nangong Yunshin's words. However, Ji-yu spoke first. "That's right, we're siblings." Jiang Yuchu was stunned for a moment. She didn't understand why Ji-yu said that. "I'm Yu, and she's Yu-chu," Ji-yu said with a smile. In fact, he didn't deliberately want to hide his identity. It was just a temporary bad taste of his. The identity of brother and sister was quite interesting. "I see." Nangong Yunshin nodded and said, "Fortunately, the two of you are willing to travel with us. Otherwise, with Miss Yuchu's beauty, it would be very easy for her to be targeted by bandits and villains." She hadn't noticed it before, but now that she was so close, she could see clearly that the girl in front of her was so beautiful. In comparison, she felt ashamed of her inferiority. If such a little sister were to fall into the hands of villains, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ji-yu only smiled at Nangong Yunshin's words. With his strength, did he need to be afraid of those so-called bandits? Speaking of which, looking at the badge in front of young master, you should be an alchemist, right? Nangong Yunshin's gaze landed on the badge on Ji-yu's chest again. "That's right," Ji-yu said casually. Could it be that young master just participated in the alchemy conference and just returned from Chaoyang Ancient City? Nangong Yunshin asked after a moment of hesitation. Ji-yu nodded again. Seeing Ji-yu nod, Nangong Yunshin's eyes flickered as if she was thinking about something. Chapter 139. Since there was nothing else to do, Ji-yu continued to cultivate in the carriage. If I didn't hear wrong, you're from the Nangong family, right? At this moment, Ji-yu suddenly changed the topic. I have a favor to ask of you. The reason why he was so direct was because he felt that the other party had a good character. One couldn't judge a book by its cover. Although he didn't like Nangong Yunshin's appearance, he could see that she was kind inside after interacting with her earlier. Otherwise, she wouldn't have stopped halfway and invited him and Jiang Yuchu to travel together. She was kind and worried that they would encounter bandits. What is it? Nangong Yunshin returned to her senses and asked. Does your Nangong family have a medicinal field? Ji-yu asked directly. We do. Nangong Yunshin thought for a moment and roughly guessed this young master Yuyu's thoughts. Young master wants to go to our Nangong family's medicinal field. Yes, I need a medicinal ingredient called the green firefly. Ji-yu answered. Green firefly? Nangong Yunshin was shocked. This type of insect was incredible. This medicinal ingredient is too precious and might not be easy to obtain. I know. Ji-yu said, I'll help if I can. If I can't, I'll think of another way. Nangong Yunshin hesitated for a moment and said, actually, it's not that there's no way. I can help you fight for it, but if it succeeds, I hope you can promise me one thing. Just say it. Ji-yu said indifferently. Let's talk about it after it's done. Nangong Yunshin said. That works too. Ji-yu said, as long as it's something I can do, I'll do my best to satisfy your conditions. Okay, I'll do my best too. Nangong Yunshin promised. Jiang Yuchu didn't say anything and quietly listened to Ji-yu and Nangong Yunshin's conversation. After an unknown amount of time, the carriage gradually slowed down. It seemed that they had arrived at Bright Moon Ancient City. Ji-yu finally came out of her cultivation state. Have we arrived? Ji-yu asked Nangong Yunshin the moment she opened her eyes. That's right, we've already arrived at Bright Moon Ancient City. Nangong Yunshin said, our luck is pretty good. We didn't encounter any bandits or robbers. So this is the Bright Moon Ancient City. Ji-yu immediately turned his head to look out of the window. He could see the carriage slowly entering the city gates. He muttered under his breath. Glancing at the scenery of Bright Moon Ancient City, he found that it was not much different from Rising Sun Ancient City. The more obvious difference was that the martial cultivators of Bright Moon Ancient City seemed to have lower average cultivation than Rising Sun Ancient City. After all, this was a place where alchemy was the main focus. The martial path aspect would naturally be a little weaker. We are currently on our way to the Nangong residence. Please wait for us. Nangong Yunshin said. Ji-yu nodded slightly and didn't say anything. Not long after, the group of carriages arrived at the entrance of the Nangong estate. The surrounding martial cultivators were all hired martial artists. After the middle-aged man in the lead gave them their hiring fees, they left in high spirits. Young Master Yu, we've arrived. At this moment, Nangong Yunshin reminded Ji-yu in the carriage. Ji-yu immediately opened his eyes and exited his cultivation state. Then, Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu followed Nangong Yunshin out of the carriage and walked into the Nangong estate. Young miss, what are you doing? Seeing this, the middle-aged man asked in puzzlement. They have some important matters to discuss with me. Nangong Yunshin explained. I understand. The middle-aged man no longer asked. Both of you, please follow me. Nangong Yunshin said politely to Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu. Ji-yu nodded slightly and followed Nangong Yunshin into the Nangong estate. Jiang Yuchu silently followed behind her. Although there were many guards, when they saw that it was Nangong Yunshin, they all consciously made way. In a courtyard of the Nangong estate, there was a hall that looked like it was specially used to receive VIPs. There were all kinds of delicacies on the table. At this moment, Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu were sitting at this table. Both of you, please enjoy yourselves here first. I'm going to handle the young master's matter. I'll come back later to give you an answer. Chapter 140. In an antique room in the Nangong estate. An old man was refining some kind of pill in front of an alchemy cauldron. In the next moment, he condensed the ingredients in the cauldron into pills. The door was pushed open at the same time. "Father, I'm back." It was Nangong Yunshin who walked in. "Yunshin," the old man said with concern, "you didn't encounter any danger on the way, right?" "No." Nangong Yunshin shook her head. "Then," she continued, "but I met a pair of siblings on the way. I asked them to come back with our carriage team. As long as you're happy." The old man smiled kindly. He had a daughter at an old age and only had one obedient daughter. Of course, he doted on her. "That young man is an alchemist," Nangong Yunshin said, "but he asked me for a favor. He wants to find a kind of medicinal herb in our Nangong family's herbal field." "He wants to enter the herbal field?" The old man's expression changed slightly, and his tone became more serious. "Yunshin, who's that young man?" "I'm not very sure. I only know that his name is Yu Yu. He's around 16 years old and already has a superior grade 1 alchemist badge. He just finished participating in the alchemy conference in Chaoyang Ancient City." Nangong Yunshin said. "A superior grade 1 alchemist at 16 years old. His alchemy talent is pretty good," the old man commented. "Then," he said, "but no matter what, he's a stranger of unknown origin. Our Nangong family's herbal field can't just let strangers enter." The herbal field was one of the most important places in the Nangong family. Even regular family members could not enter the herbal field casually. Only people with higher status like elders could enter. As for a strange young man of unknown origin, it was even more impossible to allow him to enter so easily. But Nangong Yunshin immediately became anxious. "I've already agreed to that young man." The old man was shocked and puzzled. After a while, he asked, "Yunshin, why are you doing this? Everyone has their own selfish motives, and so do I. I hope you can understand, father," Nangong Yunshin said with a slightly complicated expression. "All right, as long as you're happy." The old man compromised helplessly. "But I still want to see that young man first." "Who asked this to be his precious daughter?" "Thank you for your tolerance, father," Nangong Yunshin said happily. At the same time, Jiyu and Jiang Yuchu had finished their meal. He had to admit that Nangong Yunshin was quite sincere. He hadn't eaten such delicious food in a long time, especially after experiencing the destruction of Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yuashin's dark cuisine so many times. However, at this moment, Jiyu sensed that someone had barged into the hall. She immediately turned her head to look. An old man walked in unhurriedly with Nangong Yunshin following behind him. "Yunshin, this is young Master Yu Yu." The old man looked at Jiyu and said. "That's right." Nangong Yunshin nodded. "You are." That old man didn't seem to be a simple person. Jiyu immediately stood up and said respectfully, "I'm Nangong Yunshin's father and an elder here, Nangong Zun." The old man said slowly, "So it's Elder Nangong. Junior Yu Yu greets Senior." Jiyu said respectfully. He had a request this time, so he naturally couldn't ignore others like usual. "No need to be so polite." The old man said, "I heard from Yunshin that you want to come to our Nangong family's herb field to search for herbs. Can you tell me what herbs you want?" "Didn't Miss Nangong tell Senior?" Jiyu said, "I'm looking for green fireflies." "Green fireflies?" The old man's eyes flickered. He pondered for a while before continuing, "Originally, I wasn't willing to let outsiders enter the herb field. However, for Yunshin's sake, I can let you enter the herb field to search for green fireflies." "Thank you, Senior." Jiyu thanked him. "Yunshin will bring you to the herb field tomorrow. You can stay here for the night." With that, the old man turned around and left. He came here this time just to see what kind of person the young man his daughter spoke of was. As long as the other party's character wasn't too bad, he wouldn't go back on his promise to his daughter. At this moment, Nangong Yunshin hadn't left yet. She said to Jiyu, "Young master, you can search for green fireflies in peace tomorrow. When the time comes, I'll take care of the financial matters for you. Just remember what you promised me." "Of course, I'll remember." Jiyu nodded. "All right, then I'll go back first." Nangong Yunshin said, "Also, this place is specially used by our Nangong family to entertain important guests. Young master, stay here tonight." With that, Nangong Yunshin also walked out of the courtyard. Chapter 141. Although he didn't know what Nangong Yunshin's intentions were, Ji-yu still planned to take things one step at a time. After all, Nangong Yunshin would only mention her conditions after he was done with his business. As long as it wasn't too harsh, he was willing to accept it. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master, martial arts cultivation has successfully broken through to mid-stage LV6 defensive profound realm. At night, Ji-yu stayed in a room and cultivated casually. His martial arts cultivation broke through to mid-stage LV6 defensive profound realm. At this time, it was late at night. Did you break through again? Seeing that Ji-yu opened his eyes, Jiang Yuchu asked. Before this, she didn't disturb Ji-yu at all. Yes. Ji-yu nodded. Then let's sleep together. Jiang Yuchu walked to the bed and sat down with a calm expression. She patted the spot beside her and signaled for Ji-yu to come over. There are so many other rooms. Why don't you sleep separately from me? Why do you want to sleep with me? Ji-yu's mouth twitched slightly. Can't I? Jiang Yuchu put on a pitiful look. Don't pretend in front of me. Ji-yu was a little speechless. It wasn't his first time meeting Jiang Yuchu. Jiang Yuechu's pitiful look gave him a strong feeling of contrast. Okay Tilda, I got it. When Jiang Yuchu was speaking, she was still like a lively and cute little loli, but after she finished speaking, her expression immediately turned cold and cheerless. Then, her slender hands started undressing and preparing to sleep. It's up to you if you want to stay the night. I'll sleep outside and you can sleep inside. Ji-yu didn't really care. He had already lived 2 lifetimes, and he was no longer a pure and innocent young man. He would not be troubled by such things. As Jiang Yuechu's petite body shrank into the quilt, Ji-yu also sat on the bed. He was too lazy to care about so many things. He just wanted to sleep. However, not long after he laid down and closed his eyes, he heard an intimate voice. Don't you understand? I only act like this in front of you. Hearing this voice, Ji-yu immediately opened her eyes and turned her head to look. His gaze met Jiang Yuechu's. Although Jiang Yuchu was expressionless, her eyes were clear and bright. It was obvious that he was neither lying nor making fun of him. Ji-yu was silent for a while, not knowing what to say. Jiang Yuchu looked straight at Ji-yu seriously, then the corners of her mouth curled up. I'm just kidding. Let's sleep. Ji-yu's eyes flashed slightly, but he did not say anything. He could tell that Jiang Yuechu's previous words were from the bottom of her heart and were not a joke. He turned his body to the other side, with his back facing Jiang Yuchu, and his heart was thoughtful. The next moment, Ji-yu suddenly felt his waist being hugged from behind, and his back was pressed tightly against a delicate body. Before he could speak, Jiang Yuchu said first, "You should like this, right?" "Of course." Hearing Jiang Yuechu's soft voice, Ji-yu was silent for a moment, then said, "In this kind of situation, which man would not like it?" Unless it was someone who was not fully developed, then he had nothing to say. "It's good that you like it," Jiang Yuchu said softly. She seemed to treat Ji-yu as a pillow, and then hugged him even tighter. However, the faint blush on her cheeks proved that she was still a little shy. Chapter 142. It had to be said that although Jiang Yuechu's figure was about the same as Jiang Yueshin's, she was still a little girl. However, a little loli was still a little loli after all. It was not a joke to say that her body was light and soft. It was easy for Ji-yu to not be able to control the impulse in her heart. However, he still forced himself to calm down, and asked Jiang Yuchu, "Could it be that you have some sort of objective again?" "No, I'm just doing what I want to do," Jiang Yuchu said, "and you like it, so there's no problem." "What do you want to do?" Ji-yu pondered for a while, but he still couldn't figure out what Jiang Yuchu was thinking. However, he was too lazy to continue thinking about it and decided to go to sleep first. Anyway, other things aside, Being hugged to sleep by a little girl was also a kind of enjoyment for him. Not only that, it could also train his willpower. For example, ding. Master resisted the temptation of a little girl. Bronze level willpower gained experience points, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master resisted the temptation of a little girl. Bronze level willpower gained experience points, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master, bronze level willpower has successfully broken through to the initial stage. After a night, Jiyu's willpower had successfully broken through and could more easily suppress his impulses. It's time to get up. When he woke up and found that Jiang Yuchu was still hugging him, Jiyu immediately called out. Jiang Yuchu let out a groan, obviously still not fully awake. Seeing this, Jiyu didn't disturb Jiang Yuchu anymore. Instead, he gently pulled away Jiang Yuechu's hands that were wrapped around his waist and got off the bed. Jiang Yuchu was still in a half-asleep state. Her delicate body subconsciously curled up like a confused little animal. Jiyu covered her with the blanket and then went out to wash up. After washing up, the servants of the Nangong residence brought breakfast over. However, when Jiyu finished her breakfast, Jiang Yuchu still hadn't woken up. It's getting late. How much longer are you going to sleep? Jiyu walked over and shook Jiang Yuchu. Let's wait a little longer. At this time, Jiang Yuchu made a confused sound. Breakfast is going to get cold if you wait any longer. Just get up, Jiyu said. However, Jiang Yuchu did not respond. She seemed to have fallen asleep again. Jiyu felt a little helpless, but in the next moment, his eyes flashed with a mischievous smile. He lifted the blanket, only to see a pair of fair and tender feet exposed. Her toes were like green onions. They were small, cute, and beautiful. Jiyu couldn't help but be a little dazed. He then used his fingertips to lightly scratch the pink and smooth soles of her feet. Jiang Yuechu's delicate body trembled slightly. At the same time, her little feet immediately retracted. Your little feet are quite sensitive. Seeing Jiang Yuechu's obvious reaction, Jiyu said with a mischievous smile, if you don't get up, I'll continue to punish you. Jiang Yuchu seemed to be really scared. She quickly got up from the bed and retracted her two little feet. She was afraid that Jiyu would continue to scratch her soles. TSK, TSK, TSK. Jiyu's eyes revealed a hint of joy. This was because he discovered Jiang Yuechu's weakness. Her little feet were very sensitive. At this time, Jiang Yuechu's face revealed a trace of shyness. She looked at Jiyu with some embarrassment. Jiyu, do you have this kind of fetish? The hell? Hearing Jiang Yuechu's words, Jiyu immediately realized that he seemed to have been misunderstood. Don't misunderstand. I don't have this kind of fetish. Jiyu immediately explained, I only did this to wake you up. Chapter 143. Jiyu expressed that he was innocent. If it weren't for Jiang Yuchu not waking up, he wouldn't have done that. How could he be the kind of person who had a weird fetish? Although, in the world of his previous life, it seemed that everyone was more or less a foot fetish. Jiyu dared to guarantee that he definitely didn't have the slightest bit of evil thoughts. Yes, absolutely not. Even if you really have that kind of special fetish, it's okay. Jiang Yuechu's face slightly blushed and said, if you like, I can do it at any time. At the end of the sentence, Jiang Yuechu was already too shy to continue. No need, no need. Jiyu smiled slightly awkwardly. In order to avoid continuing the awkwardness, he immediately changed the topic. Hurry up and wash up and then eat breakfast. Otherwise, breakfast won't taste good when it gets cold. Okay. Jiang Yuechu's expression gradually returned to normal. After putting on her clothes, she got out of bed and went to wash up. In fact, just now was the first time that her soles were touched by someone. Before this, she had never realized that the soles of her feet were actually so sensitive. Being lightly scratched by Jiyu's nails was unbearable. At the same time, that stimulation made her feel an indescribable feeling. A little comfortable. Thinking of that feeling, Jiang Yuechu's heart suddenly couldn't calm down, and a feeling of shyness arose spontaneously. Until Jiang Yuechu came back from washing up, her emotions gradually calmed down. Are you okay? Your face is a little red. Noticing that Jiang Yuchu was a little strange, Ji Yu immediately asked with concern. Did his action just now really have such a big impact on Jiang Yuchu? He was a little surprised. Jiang Yuechu's little feet were a little too sensitive. It's okay. Jiang Yuchu was a little embarrassed and slightly turned her face away. Don't worry, as long as you don't do anything overboard in the future, I won't do that to you again. Ji Yu said. He really didn't expect that Jiang Yuchu would be so sensitive that she would be so affected by a light scratch of his fingertip. If he knew, he definitely wouldn't bully Jiang Yuechu's little feet over something as trivial as sleeping in. It's okay, as long as you like it. Jiang Yuchu was slightly bashful. She realized that she didn't seem to have much resistance to that feeling. Instead, she had a strange kind of expectation. Even now, her leg was still a little sore and weak. Although Jiang Yuchu said those words, Ji Yu definitely wouldn't bully Jiang Yuchu. This kind of behavior was somewhat difficult to talk about, and he did not want to admit that he had some kind of special fetish. At most, when Jiang Yuchu did something out of line in the future, he would take advantage of this weakness to take care of this girl. Not long after Jiang Yuchu finished breakfast, Nangong Yunshin happened to arrive as well. Sir, is it convenient for you now? Nangong Yunshin didn't directly open the door but asked outside first. It's convenient for me now. Ji Yu said, come in. Okay. Nangong Yunshin then opened the door and walked into the room. However, when she saw Jiang Yuchu and Ji Yu together, she couldn't help but be stunned. Her mind instantly started to wander. Sir, what are you guys doing? Nangong Yunshin asked with a slightly red face. What's wrong? Ji Yu didn't understand what Nangong Yunshin meant. I mean, Nangong Yunshin hesitated for a moment before deciding to say it. Do you two have that kind of special relationship? Although it was impolite and might anger them, she was still very curious. Could biological siblings really do that kind of thing? What special relationship? Ji Yu still didn't understand what Nangong Yunshin meant. But in the next moment, he suddenly realized something. Now, he finally understood. No, you've misunderstood. Ji Yu explained with a calm expression, we're just having a normal breakfast. It's not what you think. His expression was extremely calm and didn't look like he was lying at all. He and Jiang Yuchu weren't biological siblings to begin with. He was just joking. Since they weren't biological siblings, why would he panic? Oh, so that's the case. Looking at Ji Yu's calm expression, Nangong Yunshin believed him. She then bowed and apologized, I'm very sorry. I maliciously guessed the two of you just now. It's fine. Ji Yu said, let's get down to business. Alright, I was being a busybody. Nangong Yunshin immediately changed her tone and said seriously, my father has already helped us. I'll bring the two of you directly to the herb field later. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Chapter 144. Not long after, Ji Yu and Jiang Yuchu arrived at the Nangong Estate's herb field under Nangong Yunshin's lead. It seemed that Nangong Zun had already instructed them beforehand, so none of the people guarding the herb field paid attention to them. As soon as they entered the herb field, Ji Yu could sense that the mystic qi here was clearly several times denser than the outside world. It could only be said that the Nangong Estate was indeed a renowned alchemy aristocratic family in Bright Moon Ancient City. Ji Yu caught a green firefly in a few seconds. You found it so easily? Jiang Yuchu said in surprise when she saw the green firefly in Ji Yu's hand. Although the green firefly is very precious, our Nangong Estate's herb field is very suitable for them to live in, so there are many of them here. Nangong Yunshin explained with a hint of pride in her tone. Then, Nangong Yunshin said, Young master, do you only need one green firefly? Yes, one is enough. Ji Yu nodded. He was basically 100% confident that he could successfully refine the 7 profound spirit clearing pill, so he didn't need to prepare an additional green firefly. Alright, then I'll help young master take care of the fees later. Nangong Yunshin said. Then I'll have to trouble you. Ji Yu said. Then, the three of them left the herb field. However, just as they left, someone else coincidentally entered the herb field, and it was someone familiar. Ji-yu, why are you here? Nangong Morching was stunned when he saw Ji-yu as soon as he entered the herb field. Then, he asked in surprise. Why can't I be here? Ji-yu asked in return. Although he knew that Nangong Morching should be in the Nangong estate, he was still surprised to see Nangong Morching in the herb field. However, Ji-yu didn't notice that Nangong Yunshin's expression changed behind him. You came here specially to find the green firefly? Nangong Morching noticed the green firefly in Ji-yu's hand. Yes. Ji-yu said casually. He was too lazy to continue arguing with Nangong Morching, but just as he was about to go around Nangong Morching, he was stopped by Nangong Morching. What do you mean by this? Ji-yu frowned slightly and said. This is the Nangong estate. Without my permission, you can't leave the herb field. Nangong Yunshin said coldly. So? Ji-yu's tone gradually turned cold. If you want to take the green firefly away, then become my servant. I will compensate you for the cost. Use. Nangong's estate NNNOF was the Nong's names that's the Nangong S was no NNNNengza any NSS. However, he was definitely unwilling to be this woman's servant. It seemed like he could only give up on the green firefly. At this moment, Jiang Yuchu could not help but whisper to Ji-yu anxiously, Ji-yu, don't agree with him. We don't want this green firefly. Ji-yu had the same idea, so he immediately said to Nangong Morching, I'll return this to you. As he spoke, he casually threw the green firefly to Nangong Morching. It seems like you refuse to be my servant, said Nangong Morching coldly. Ji-yu was speechless. Wasn't that nonsense? He had already thrown the green firefly away. If that wasn't rejection, then what was? At this moment, Nangong Morching's gaze landed on Nangong Yunshin, who was behind Ji-yu. However, Nangong Yunshin kept her head down and did not say a word. Nangong Morching merely glanced at her and did not pay much attention to her. He did not say anything either. Let's go. Ji-yu then walked past Nangong Morching and Jiang Yuchu followed her. Nangong Yunshin finally moved as well. She followed Ji-yu silently with her head down. Nangong Morching watched Ji-yu's back as she left. His cold eyes flickered with the desire to conquer. One day, I'll make you willingly become my slave. Chapter 145. Ji-yu didn't know why Nangong Morching insisted on going against him. He only thought that woman was crazy. He couldn't help but feel a little unlucky. He had already gotten the green firefly, but he encountered Nangong Morching by accident. That Nangong Morching acted like she was on her period and didn't let him take the green firefly away. She even wanted him to be her servant. What happened to you just now? Ji-yu suddenly thought of something and asked Nangong Yunshin behind him. He noticed that Nangong Yunshin was a little strange and was very curious about what happened. Nothing. Hearing Ji-yu's voice, Nangong Yunshin trembled slightly and immediately looked up. However, Ji-yu heard a trace of panic in Nangong Yunshin's voice. It was obvious that Nangong Yunshin was lying. However, since she wasn't willing to say, Ji-yu didn't continue to ask. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect eldest miss to come. Besides, Nangong Yunshin suddenly realized something. Why did eldest miss call you Ji-yu just now? Isn't your name Yu? Actually, my real name is Ji-yu. I lied to you before. I tricked you, Ji-yu said casually without any embarrassment. I see. Nangong Yunshin didn't say anything else. Then, she continued to ask, young master, do you know our eldest miss? Why is she purposely targeting you? Based on her understanding of her eldest miss, she wasn't the kind of person who liked to meddle in other people's business. Since eldest miss purposely made things difficult for Ji-yu this time, something must have happened between the two. Not really. Actually, it might be because I defeated her at the alchemy conference. Ji-yu said indifferently. These indifferent words caused Nangong Yunshin to be greatly alarmed. Her face was filled with disbelief. This young man actually defeated eldest miss at the alchemy conference. No, wasn't this young man just a superior grade 1 alchemist? Young master, don't joke around. Eldest miss is a superior grade 2 alchemist, and you, Nangong Yunshin said with a smile. As he spoke, His gaze landed on the alchemist badge on Ji-Yu's chest. Noticing Nangong Yunshin's gaze, Ji-Yu immediately understood something and said, "Who told you that I'm only a first-grade superior alchemist?" Nangong Yunshin's eyes widened slightly. According to what the other party said, wouldn't the other party's true alchemy skills be above that of a second-grade superior alchemist? Anyway, it's a fact that Nangong Morching was defeated by me. Otherwise, she wouldn't have targeted me like this. Ji-Yu was too lazy to continue explaining. However, Ji-Yu was wrong. Nangong Morching was not because of this. By the way, since young master didn't get the green firefly this time, he probably won't be able to enter the herb field in the future. After all, young mistress, Nangong Yunshin said, why don't I take young master to eliminate the other medicinal fields that might have green fireflies? There's no need to trouble you to specially take us there. You can roughly tell me a few places. Ji-Yu said. Sure. After that, Nangong Yunshin told Ji-Yu about the medicinal fields that were more likely to have green fireflies in Bright Moon Ancient City. In fact, it was none other than the alchemy aristocratic families in Bright Moon Ancient City. The more powerful alchemy aristocratic families basically had their own medicinal fields. Then we'll leave first. Ji-Yu then left with Jiang Yuchu, preparing to leave the Nangong estate. At this moment, Nangong Yunshin struggled for a while before she made up her mind. Young master, Nangong Yunshin called out. Ji-Yu immediately stopped in her tracks. What's wrong? Young master, can you take me as your disciple? Nangong Yunshin asked after a moment of hesitation. Chapter 146. Accept you as my disciple? Ji-Yu was confused. What was going on? Although I couldn't help you much this time, I still want to be your disciple. I hope you can teach me alchemy, Nangong Yunshin said with a complicated expression. Nangong Yunshin said with a slightly complicated expression, if you can agree, I'll accept whatever conditions you propose. In fact, when she agreed to help him enter the herb field to find the green firefly, it was not to become his disciple but to accept him as her disciple. At first, she only knew that he had a superior grade 1 alchemist badge, but that was already very impressive in her eyes. At that time, she thought that if she could accept him as her disciple in name, she would be able to close the gap between her and First Miss when his alchemy skills continued to improve. That was because she had accepted a disciple with outstanding talent. However, it was only now that she found out that he was even better than First Miss in alchemy, so it was impossible for her to accept him as her disciple. Moreover, his alchemy talent was so terrifying that she was willing to accept him as her disciple. If you accept me as your master, isn't your father an elder? Wouldn't it be better for you to find him instead of me? Ji-Yu asked in confusion. My father never wanted me to come into contact with alchemy. He thought that martial arts was the right path, so he was unwilling to teach me alchemy. Nangong Yunshin said with a sad expression. So that's why, Ji-Yu said, then can you tell me why you're so eager to learn alchemy? He could roughly guess why Nangong Yunshin was so willing to help him in the beginning and wanted him to agree to a condition after everything was done. It was probably related to alchemy. Nangong Yunshin hesitated for a moment before saying, I want to close the gap between me and First Miss. You want to close the gap between you and Nangong Morching? Ji-Yu was even more curious. What was this for? What was it for? However, in the next moment, he suddenly thought of something and asked Nangong Yunshin, you have so much makeup on your face because of this, right? That's right, Nangong Yunshin replied. Just as Ji-Yu had thought, Nangong Yunshin put on so much makeup that made him feel uncomfortable just to close the gap between her and Nangong Morching. To be precise, it was to close the gap in terms of appearance. How about this? Ji-Yu thought for a moment and said, I can teach you some things related to alchemy, but I feel that the most important thing is to make your father change his mind. After all, I have no experience in teaching people. To be honest, I don't even know how to teach you. Nangong Yunshin's father was an elder-level figure in the Nangong family, so he was definitely very skilled in imparting alchemy to others. Although his alchemy skills were high, he had never taught anyone before. This was the difference between professionals and non-professionals. No matter how high Ji-Yu's alchemy skills were, and even if she became a top-notch 9th-grade alchemist in the future, she definitely couldn't compare to those experienced elders when it came to imparting alchemy. To be honest, he had no idea how to teach others. Young master, do you have any ideas? Nangong Yunshin asked. If it's a plan. I'm not 100% confident. Jiyu said, but I can try my best to persuade your father. We'll know if it's successful after a try. Why don't you bring me to your father now? Okay, then I'll have to trouble you, young master. Nangong Yunshin then bowed. It's fine. Jiyu said indifferently. Nangong Yunshin then led the way. From the beginning to the end, Jiang Yuchu quietly stayed by Jiyu's side and didn't say a word. After more than 10 minutes, Jiyu and Jiang Yuchu were brought to an ancient-looking room by Nangong Yunshin. Yunshin, what's wrong? Nangong Zun, who was busy with his own matters, suddenly saw his daughter return. He immediately put down what he was doing and asked, Father, although I know it's almost impossible for you to agree, I still want you to teach me alchemy skills. Nangong Yunshin lowered her head slightly and said after hesitating for a moment. Nangong Zun was silent for a moment before he sighed softly and said, My good daughter, why are you doing this? At this moment, Jiyu suddenly said, Senior, do you fully understand your daughter's personality? Chapter 147. Nangong Zun was a little confused. He did not understand why she would ask this question. As a father, how could he not understand his daughter's personality? Senior, do you know that your daughter is very headstrong? Jiyu continued. Headstrong? Nangong Zun was surprised. Why do you say that? He really did not know. In his impression, his daughter was an obedient girl who would occasionally have her own opinions. He basically did not need to worry about her. Senior, you probably don't know that your daughter is very competitive with big sister Nangong, right? Jiyu said, that's also why your daughter wants to learn alchemy so strongly. Nangong Zun was stunned when he heard Jiyu's words. He never thought that his daughter would have such a mentality. Nangong Yunshin, on the other hand, looked elsewhere with a complicated expression. There was worry and fear in her eyes. Yunshin, is what this young master said true? Nangong Zun asked Nangong Yunshin. It's all true, Nangong Yunshin nodded slowly. Nangong Zun fell silent when he heard that. If I'm not wrong, your daughter doesn't like to speak her innermost thoughts. Jiyu said at this moment. Nangong Yunshin nodded slightly. Nangong Zun laughed at himself. As a father, he actually did not understand his daughter's personality as well as an outsider. Previously, I didn't want you to work so hard like me in the future, so I didn't want you to come into contact with alchemy. Nangong Zun said to Nangong Yunshin calmly, however, since you already have your own goal, I won't restrict you anymore. Father, you mean, you're willing to teach your daughter alchemy attainments? Nangong Yunshin's eyes lit up as she asked expectantly. Yes. Nangong Zun nodded. That's great. Nangong Yunshin was extremely excited. At the same time, she was very grateful. If young Master Ji did not speak up for her, her father would not have changed his mind. Previously, she was afraid that her father would have a different attitude after learning the truth, so she did not dare to speak her true thoughts. Thank you, young master. Nangong Yunshin thanked Jiyu gratefully. It's a small matter. Jiyu said with a smile. In essence, he had only said a few words. It was indeed a small matter. Speaking of which, has young master found the green firefly? Nangong Zun suddenly thought of this and asked. I did find him, but someone was looking for trouble, so I returned empty-handed. Jiyu said helplessly. Who's looking for trouble? Nangong Zun asked with a displeased expression. It's your eldest Miss, Jiyu replied. So it's the young miss. Then there's nothing I can do. Nangong Zun's expression instantly changed as he smiled awkwardly. He originally wanted to find that guy to settle the score, but who would have thought that it was the eldest miss who did it? That's it. We're leaving. Jiyu felt that it was about time, so she prepared to leave. All right then. Right at this moment, Nangong Zun suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and he said, speaking of which, young master, do you need me to get Yunshin to send you off? You don't have to go through the trouble. Jiyu said politely. All right. Take care, young master. Nangong Zun could not help but feel that it was a pity. When Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu were far away, Nangong Zun said to Nangong Yunshin with a slightly regretful expression, "What a pity, what a pity. Yunshin, it would be great if you could become a couple with that young master." Nangong Yunshin was stunned before she blushed slightly. She said shyly, "Father, please don't joke about this, I'm not joking. That young master understands you better than I do." Nangong Zun laughed out loud. "I think that young master is extraordinarily outstanding. It would be great if the two of you could become a couple." Ha ha ha, Nangong Yunshin's face turned even redder, and a hint of disappointment appeared in her eyes. Young Master Ji-yu was so outstanding, so he definitely had no lack of talented and beautiful women by his side. In comparison, she was neither overflowing with talent nor extremely outstanding beauty. At this moment, Nangong Zun seemed to understand Nangong Yunshin's gaze. He said in a deep voice, "Yunshin, if you're willing to work hard, you'll still have a chance to meet that young master in the future." Nangong Yunshin could not help but be stunned when she heard that. Then, she nodded solemnly with determination in her eyes. Chapter 148. At the same time, Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu had already left the Nangong estate. Not long after they left the Nangong estate, Jiang Yuchu suddenly said, "I didn't expect you to know Nangong Yunshin so well." Hearing Jiang Yuechu's voice, Ji-yu didn't react at first. Then, she said, "What's there to be surprised about? Can't you figure it out if you think about it carefully?" "I don't think so." At this moment, Jiang Yuchu was silent for a moment. Then, she looked at Ji-yu seriously and said, "I'm suddenly wondering if you really don't understand or if you've been playing dumb all this time." In her opinion, with Ji-yu's sharp senses, it was impossible for her not to see through her younger sister Jiang Yueshin's intentions. "Why are you playing dumb?" Ji-yu asked blankly. Jiang Yuchu looked deeply at Ji-yu and shook her head slightly. "Forget it, it's nothing." She felt that Ji-yu had been playing dumb all this time, but she didn't want to expose Ji-yu now. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's hurry and find the green fireflies to refine the 7 profound spirit clearing pill. After that, we'll have to head to the Chenyuan martial house," Ji-yu said. "Okay," Jiang Yuchu responded softly. She was still thinking about other things. Next, Ji-yu planned to head to the Alchemist Guild in Bright Moon Ancient City. According to Nangong Yunshin, the Alchemist Guild in Bright Moon Ancient City, or Bright Moon Ancient City's branch, had the strongest foundation among all the branches. The medicinal field it owned was also not inferior to the Nangong families. Ji-yu didn't doubt this at all. This was because he still remembered that during the alchemy conference, the person who ranked first in the individual competition was the alchemy genius of Bright Moon Ancient City's branch. Moreover, in Ji-yu's opinion, a place like the Alchemist Guild was the most convenient. Usually, the Alchemist Guild valued monetary benefits the most, and he had more than 100,000 gold coins on him. As long as he had enough money, he would be able to enter and leave the herbal field as he pleased. However, this was not the case in the Nangong family. No matter how much money Ji-yu had, Nangong Morching would deliberately make things difficult for her. Whenever he thought of that woman, Nangong Morching, Ji-yu felt extremely annoyed. "She just had to go against me. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely rub that woman against the ground," Ji-yu swore in her heart. After that, Ji-yu bought a map from the roadside. Following the route on the map, she found the Bright Moon branch. "This is Bright Moon Ancient City's Alchemist Guild. Let's go in." Looking up at the words Bright Moon branch, Ji-yu said to Jiang Yuchu. "Yes." Jiang Yuchu nodded. After that, Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu walked into the Bright Moon branch together. However, just as they stepped into the Bright Moon branch, someone stopped them. It seemed to be the Bright Moon branch's guard. "Please show your alchemist badge," the guard said calmly. Ji-yu silently flashed the alchemist badge on his chest. When the guard saw it, he immediately stepped aside and said respectfully, "Please enter." Although Jiang Yuchu did not have an alchemist badge, the guard did not seem to intend to check Jiang Yuechu's identity. This Bright Moon branch is quite strict, Ji-yu thought as she walked in. For example, in the Chaoyang branch, There was no guard to check one's identity. No matter who it was, they could enter the Chaoyang branch. However, in the Bright Moon branch, it seemed that ordinary people were not allowed to enter. May I ask how the two of you can help? At this moment, a young lady with good looks came up to them. I want to find a kind of medicinal herb in your medicinal field. The price is not a problem, Ji-yu said. The young lady's eyes were slightly surprised. She said, I'm sorry, I don't have the authority in this area. Please wait for a moment, I will ask the elder to come over. Yes, I understand. Ji-yu nodded. The young lady then quickly walked inside. Obviously, she was going to ask the elder to come and receive Ji-yu and Jiang Yuchu. However, not long after the young lady left, an unfriendly voice suddenly came from behind Ji-yu. Kid, why are you here? Ji-yu immediately turned around and saw a young man in luxurious clothes. He felt that the young man in front of him was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember who he was. Who are you? Ji-yu asked in confusion. Chapter 149. Hearing Ji-yu's words, Wu Feng almost spat out a mouthful of blood. In less than a day, this brat actually couldn't recognize him. This young master's name is Wu Feng. Brat, remember it clearly, Wu Feng said with an arrogant face. Oh, so it's you. Ji-yu said with a calm face, why are you looking for me? If the other party didn't say it, he really couldn't remember who this young man was. This young master was just bored and came to stroll around, but since I met you brat, Wu Feng sneered and said, men, throw this brat out for this young master. Following Wu Feng's shout, many of the Bright Moon branch's guards immediately surrounded them. The commotion was so great that it attracted the attention of everyone in the surroundings. What happened? Why are there so many guards gathered here? Did someone commit a crime again? Just now, it seemed like the Wu family's second young master, Wu Feng, gave the order. Probably some blind guy provoked Wu Feng. It seems to be the black-robed youth standing opposite of second young master Wu. Beside that youth is a beautiful girl. I think second young master Wu has his eyes on that beautiful girl. I think so too. That pair of siblings is really pitiful. They actually met Wu Feng, this hedonistic young master. The surrounding people discussed spiritedly. At this time, Wu Feng seemed to have heard the discussion beside him. His gaze immediately fell on Jiang Yuchu behind Ji-yu. When he saw the girl's face clearly, Wu Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Before, he didn't look carefully and didn't notice that there was such a beautiful girl beside that brat. Brat, that little beauty behind you should be your younger sister. Wu Feng's eyes greedily sized up Jiang Yuchu and said with a lewd smile, if you let this young master play with your younger sister, this young master can consider letting you go. Otherwise, don't think of continuing to mingle in Bright Moon Ancient City. At the same time, Ji-yu's face suddenly turned cold. Especially when he heard that the other party had ideas about Jiang Yuchu, his face became even colder. You're courting death, Ji-yu said coldly. Feeling Wu Feng's unbridled obscene gaze, Jiang Yuechu's beautiful eyes immediately revealed a trace of disgust. Her delicate body moved closer to Ji-yu, her small hands tightly grasping the corner of Ji-yu's clothes, as if this young man was her only support. Are you saying that I'm courting death? Wu Feng said with a disdainful smile, kid, you don't seem to understand your situation. At this time, Ji-yu noticed Jiang Yuechu's action. She didn't pay attention to Wu Feng at all. Instead, she whispered to Jiang Yuchu, don't worry. I won't let you be wronged. Jiang Yuchu suddenly felt a trace of warmth in her heart. She smiled and said, this Wu Feng is too much. He actually has his eyes on that young man's sister. Sigh, there's no other way. Who asked him to be the second young master of the Wu clan? That young man can only accept his bad luck. That's right. The Wu clan is one of the biggest alchemy clans in Bright Moon Ancient City. Wu Feng's older brother even obtained first place in the individual competition of the alchemy conference. Now, no one dares to provoke him, unless the Nangong clan makes a move. Many of the spectators were indignant, but there was nothing they could do. After all, they didn't dare to provoke the Wu clan, especially this tyrannical second young master. At the same time, when Wu Feng saw that the other party actually ignored him, his eyes darkened and he said, "You actually dare to not put this young master in your eyes? Then this young master will teach you a good lesson first, and then humiliate your sister in front of you." Hihi. Towards the end, Wu Feng's face was filled with lust, and he was about to drool. "Go." Following Wu Feng's order, the surrounding guards immediately surrounded Jiyu with unkind expressions. But at this moment, a deep voice sounded. "Stop for this old man." Chapter 150. Which bastard? Wu Feng was about to explode, but when he saw who it was, his voice stopped abruptly. He immediately changed his words. "Uncle Wu, you came at the right time." Wu Feng was only halfway through his sentence when he was interrupted by a scolding voice. "Good my ass, you're stirring up trouble again." At the same time, there was a slap sound. Wu Feng was slapped hard in the face. Facing this old man, the usually arrogant and despotic Wu Feng underwent a huge change. He held his red and swollen face, his eyes filled with disbelief. At this moment, the surroundings instantly quieted down. "What's going on? What happened?" "Sure, lower your voice. This person is the Grand Elder of the Wu family, and also the honorary elder of the Bright Moon branch. He's also the person Wu Feng is most afraid of." "I see." No wonder Wu Feng didn't go crazy after being slapped like that. Only a small amount of discussion could be heard. The old man, whom Wu Feng respectfully called Uncle Wu, reprimanded, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and apologize to Ji Gongzi." "Apologize, apologize." Wu Feng stuttered. "Who's Ji Gongzi? Don't you know that this is young Master Ji Yu?" The old man frowned. Although he didn't go to the Grand Alchemy Conference, ever since the conference ended, the entire Kanglan Empire's alchemy world was in a huge uproar. A young man named Ji Yu became the target of all the alchemy factions' special attention. For example, the Wu family specially displayed Ji Yu's portrait so that everyone would remember Ji Yu. If they ever met Ji Yu in the future, they could only befriend him and not offend him. Only Wu Feng didn't recognize him. He must have been slacking off again. "Young Master Ji Yu? What's that? That kid?" Wu Feng looked at Ji Yu with disdain. Obviously, he didn't know what happened at the Grand Alchemy Conference. Hearing this, the old man wanted to teach this unrepentant kid a lesson, but Ji Yu was already impatient. "That's enough nonsense. You can go die now." Before the old man and Wu Feng could react, Ji Yu grabbed Wu Feng's neck with one hand. "Wait." The old man was shocked when he realized what was going on. Wu Feng's face turned purple. He desperately tried to break free, but Ji Yu's strength was too terrifying. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't move an inch. "Young master, please show mercy." The old man grew anxious. No matter what, Wu Feng was still the second young master of the Wu family. From the looks of it, it was obvious that the other party wanted to kill Wu Feng. He could no longer sit still and do nothing. However, just as the old man was about to save Wu Feng, he realized that Wu Feng had stopped struggling. His head tilted to one side. Obviously, Wu Feng had already breathed his last. Ji Yu tossed Wu Feng's corpse away without a trace of pity in her eyes. As early as when Wu Feng said those insulting words to Jiang Yuchu, he had already sentenced this guy to death. At this moment, the surroundings were deathly silent. No one dared to make a sound. The old man was completely stunned. Wu Feng had died in front of him just like that. Even so, he still endured it. If it was an ordinary person, he would immediately kill that person to avenge his second young master. However, this youth was no ordinary person. With his performance at the Grand Alchemy Conference, he wouldn't dare to attack this youth even if he had 10 times the courage. Moreover, he didn't have the confidence to quickly kill this youth. If he let him escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. For the sake of the Wu family's future, he had no choice but to accept it. All of this could only be blamed on the second young master for all the evil he had done in his life. In the end, he reaped what he sowed. Chapter 151. Men, send him back. The old man looked at Wu Feng's corpse on the ground and said, After a while, the guards of the Bright Moon branch completed the old man's order. The surrounding people were very surprised. The Wu clan's first elder could still be so calm after seeing the second young master die in the hands of someone else. This is really strange. Shouldn't first elder Wu make a move? Why would he make a move? Didn't you hear who that young man is? First elder Wu can't afford to offend that pill genius. Not just pill Dao, even martial Dao strength is very terrifying. Wu Feng's cultivation had already broken through the defensive profound realm, but he was so easily crushed by that young man. That's good too. I've long disliked that Wu Feng guy. Today, that guy finally got his just desserts. Many people around were whispering to each other. At the same time, the old man looked at Jiyu with a normal expression and asked, "Young Master Ji, you came to our Bright Moon ancient city this time to find a medicinal ingredient?" Jiyu nodded slightly, a trace of surprise flashing in his eyes. This old man could actually endure so much. He had just killed Wu Feng under this old man's nose. Now, the old man acted as if nothing had happened and asked a very normal question very calmly. This old man was really not ordinary. "All right, then please follow me, young master." With that, the old man walked inside. Jiyu didn't say anything and quietly followed behind the old man. He wasn't worried that this old man would have any crooked thoughts, nor was he worried that this old man would suddenly attack him. This was because he could roughly see that this old man's martial Dao cultivation was around the 9th level of the defensive profound realm. With the old man's cultivation, he didn't have to worry about him at all. "Jiyu." At this moment, Jiang Yuchu suddenly whispered, "Why did you do that just now? Did you want to kill that guy at all costs?" "Of course it was for you." Jiyu said almost without hesitation, "That guy used you to say those words, don't you think he deserved to die?" Jiang Yuchu was stunned. Although she had expected Jiyu to answer in this way, she did not expect Jiyu to answer so decisively and directly. Her beautiful eyes immediately revealed a touch of bliss and shyness. "Speaking of which, why are you asking this?" Jiyu asked in confusion. "It's nothing," Jiang Yuchu responded softly and walked closer to Jiyu. Not long after, Jiyu and Jiang Yuchu arrived at the Bright Moon branch's medicinal field under the guidance of the old man. The herbal field here was not any worse than the one in the Nangong residence. There should be green fireflies here as well. As expected, Jiyu caught a green firefly a few minutes later. "The medicinal ingredient that young master needs is this green firefly?" the old man asked. "That's right. I'll take my leave first." After saying that, Jiyu did not continue to talk nonsense with the old man and quickly walked out of the Bright Moon branch. The old man looked at Jiyu and Jiang Yuchu with a deep gaze, revealing a hint of complexity in his eyes. At this moment, Jiyu and Jiang Yuchu had already left the Bright Moon branch. "Now that we have the green firefly, it's about time we return to Chaoyang ancient city," Jiyu said. "Okay." Jiang Yuchu nodded slightly. "I'll have to trouble you to refine pills when we return. It's just a small matter." "It's no trouble at all," Jiyu said. "After we return, I'll be able to completely eradicate the black demon fatal poison in your mother's body in less than half a day." At this moment, Jiang Yuchu suddenly reached out and silently hugged Jiyu's arm. Chapter 152. What's wrong? Sensing Jiang Yuechu's sudden action, Jiyu immediately asked in confusion. "Nothing." Jiang Yuchu gently leaned his head on Jiyu's arm and slowly said, "I hope it'll be fine if we keep it like this." Jiyu didn't resist at all and allowed Jiang Yuchu to lean on his arm. At this moment, Jiang Yuechu's beautiful eyes gradually became blurred. If it wasn't for this young man beside her, her father, mother, younger sister, and herself would have to go through countless hardships. This young man named Jiyu was really the only person she and her younger sister could rely on. Younger sister, thinking of this, Jiang Yuechu's heart suddenly became complicated and her beautiful eyes were full of struggle. What was the purpose of her efforts during this period of time? So many days had passed and not only did she not help her younger sister much, but she was also more and more infatuated with Jiyu. This was the complete opposite of her initial goal. Can't go on like this. At this moment, Jiang Yuchu suddenly let go of Ji Yu's arm. She didn't dare to continue such intimate contact with Ji Yu like just now because she was afraid that she would soon be infatuated with Ji Yu to the point that she couldn't extricate herself. That way, will hurt her younger sister. However, Ji Yu didn't know Jiang Yuechu's inner struggle, so he didn't take Jiang Yuechu's action to heart. Then, he casually bought a horse on the road and planned to ride back to Bright Moon Ancient City with Jiang Yuchu. However, at this moment, Jiang Yuchu said with some difficulty, "Can't we change to a carriage?" "Why change to a carriage? Isn't that more troublesome?" Ji Yu said with a puzzled tone, "and the carriage speed will be much slower." "Okay." Jiang Yuchu hesitated for a while but still gave up in the end. The reason why she didn't want to ride a horse was because she would definitely hug Ji Yu after getting on the horse. That kind of long-term intimate contact would easily make her lose herself. But there was no other way. After all, she couldn't tell Ji Yu those secrets. "It's time to go. Come behind me." At this time, Ji Yu had already mounted the horse and said to Jiang Yuchu. Jiang Yuchu hesitated for a while but still got on the horse. After sitting properly on the horse, she took a deep breath and tried her best to keep her state of mind calm. Then, she slowly reached out and wrapped her arms around Ji Yu's waist, but she did not hug Ji Yu tightly. "Are you done?" Ji Yu asked. "If you're done, I'll set off." "Yes." Jiang Yuchu answered. Then, Ji Yu immediately urged the horse forward. Due to inertia, Jiang Yuchu leaned against Ji Yu's back tightly. Feeling Ji Yu's broad back and the unique aura on Ji Yu's body, Jiang Yuechu's originally calm state of mind was instantly shaken. Jiang Yuchu could only enjoy everything. Since there was nothing she could do, she simply put her ear on Ji Yu's back. Listening to the slow and powerful heartbeat, her face turned slightly red. Ji Yu was completely immersed in riding and didn't pay attention to the soft and delicate body behind him. Ding. Master has used the Mystic Intermediate Level Mystic Skill Fist suppressing all directions. Experience gained, 300*999x. Ding. Master has used the Mystic Intermediate Level Mystic Skill Fist suppressing all directions. Experience gained, 300*999x. Ding. Congratulations Master, the profound rank mid-level fist suppressing all directions has successfully broken through to the mastery realm. On the way, when they passed through the demonic beast mountain range, Ji Yu even freed up one hand to deal with a large group of demonic beasts, and at the same time, fist suppressing all directions also broke through. Fist suppressing all directions, this kind of AoE profound skill was very convenient. No matter how many demonic beasts there were around, they were all dealt with in an instant. After passing through the demonic beast mountain range, Ji Yu and Jiang Yuchu quickly returned to Chaoyang Ancient City. After entering the city, Ji Yu didn't stop to rest and directly rushed to the city lord's mansion. At this moment, Ji Yu and Jiang Yuchu had already dismounted and quickly walked into the city lord's mansion. Not long after, the two of them arrived at a small house. This was the house where the mansion lord's wife lived. "You go in and greet your mother first. I will refine pills here." Ji Yu stood in an open space and said to Jiang Yuchu. "All right." Jiang Yuchu didn't say anything and immediately walked into the house. Ji Yu immediately prepared to start refining pills. He took out the pill furnace and all the materials needed to refine the 7 profound spirit clearing pill from his storage ring. This was the first time he tried to refine a 3rd grade pill, so he couldn't help but feel excited. Then, Ji Yu started a fire to warm the furnace and put the materials into the pill furnace one after another. Ding. It has been detected that Master has started to refine the 3rd grade pill 7 profound spirit clearing pill. The success rate of refining pills has increased by 999 times. Chapter 153. Ding. Master has successfully refined a superior 3rd grade pill, Tri-Profound Spirit Purifying Pill. Pill Dao attainment gained experience, 1000 by 999 times. Ding. It has been detected that Master has successfully refined the superior 3rd grade pill, 7 Profound Spirit Purifying Pill. The success rate has returned to normal. After an unknown number of hours, Ji finally succeeded in refining the 7 profound spirit-purifying pill. It was also at this time that he realized that Jiang Yushin had come over at some point and was squatting at the side, looking at him. Ji, why didn't you tell me that you were going out with big sister? Jiang Yushin was unusually calm today and didn't throw a tantrum. Look, I'm in a hurry to refine the pill for your mother. Hearing Jiang Yushin's tone, Ji felt a little uncomfortable. All right, this young lady will reluctantly forgive you. In fact, Jiang Yushin knew that Ji didn't throw a tantrum because of her mother, but it still made her feel a little uncomfortable. All right, now that I've refined the 7 profound spirit-purifying pill, go help your mother eradicate the black lethal poison. Ji naturally changed the topic. Jiang Yushin didn't continue to dwell on the previous matter and entered the house with Ji. After entering the house, Ji saw that the manor head's wife seemed to be cooking, and Jiang Yuchu was helping at the side. Ji. At this time, Jiang Yuchu noticed Ji walking in and immediately asked, "Why are you here?" "I've already finished refining the pill," Ji said. "So fast?" Jiang Yuchu said in surprise. Millimeter, Ji nodded and said, "I'll have to trouble you to let the manor head's wife sit on the bed and take this 7 profound spirit-clearing pill. She just needs to lie down and rest for the night." The manor head's wife turned around and smiled at Ji. "Sorry to trouble you, young master. I thought that young master would take a long time to finish, so I wanted to prepare dinner for young master first." At this moment, the manor madam's complexion was obviously much better than when they first met. Following Ji's request, Madam Manor Head returned to the bed and sat down. Then, with Ji's help, he took the 7 profound spirit-clearing pill. "From now on, I would like to ask the manor madam not to leave the bed. You only need to sleep for 1 night." Ji said. "Yes." Madam Manor Lord nodded. Then she said, "Young master has helped us so much. I don't know how to repay young master's kindness, otherwise." Halfway through her words, she looked at Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, and said with a meaningful smile, "I'll marry my 2 daughters to young master." "Mother!" Jiang Yushin immediately exclaimed. Although Jiang Yuchu didn't say anything, her eyes were also full of surprise. We're not at the age to talk about marriage yet, right?" Ji smiled awkwardly and declined tactfully. In his mind, he was only 16 years old, and Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin were probably even younger, at most 16 years old. If this was in his previous life, he would probably be taken away immediately. Even in this world, men usually only started to talk about marriage when they were 18 years old and women 16 years old. Speaking of which, how old are you this year? Madam Manor Lord suddenly thought of something and asked. Only now did she realize that she didn't even know how old Ji was. "I'm 16 years old this year." Ji answered honestly. Actually, this wasn't completely accurate. If he were to add in his previous life's age, he would be much more than 16 years old. "Only 16 years old?" Madam Manor Lord was shocked. "Isn't that the same age as Yuchu and Yushin?" She didn't expect this young master to be only 16 years old. This young master's actions and words were very mature and steady, and his strength in all aspects was far beyond ordinary people. Madam Manor Lord thought this young master was at least 18 to 20 years old. But his real age was only 16 years old. This was a little too exaggerated. Apart from being shocked, she also admired this young master even more. He was only 16 years old, but he was far more steady than his peers. His martial arts and alchemy were top-notch, and he was really a 1 in a million talent. She even felt that no one was more suitable to be her son-in-law than this young master. Chapter 154. Not only that, but Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin were also surprised. They had never asked Ji about this before, and thought that Ji should be much older than them. "Actually, age is not a problem," Madam Prefecture Lord said, "but if you don't want to get married so early, you can wait for another 2 years." She had great confidence in her 2 daughters anyway, so she was not worried about the time. Millimeter Ji nodded slightly and did not say anything else. For some reason, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin felt a little regretful. "Then I'll go back first. Madam Prefecture Lord, please rest well." With that, Jiyu turned and left. Jiang Yushin was about to call out to Jiyu, but she was stopped by Madam Prefecture Lord. Yushin, don't be too restrained, Master Jiyu. Everything has to be done slowly, Madam Prefecture Lord said. Yushin understands. Jiang Yushin replied obediently. At this time, Jiyu had already left the Prefecture Lord's mansion and returned to his residence. Now that his cultivation had reached the mid-stage of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm, he wanted to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm or even the peak of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm before he left for the Azure Water Marshal House in the imperial capital. Of course, it would be even better if he could break through to the 7th level of the defensive profound realm. Ding! Congratulations, Master, your cultivation has successfully broken through to the late stage of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Your cultivation has successfully broken through to the peak of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Your cultivation has successfully broken through to the peak of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm. 3 days later, Jiyu cultivated to the peak of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm to the best of his ability. In these 3 days, he bought a lot of alchemy materials and refined a lot of pills to help with his cultivation. As a result, his alchemy skills also broke through to the 4th grade alchemist level. Today, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin had also come to visit and were discussing the Azure Water Marshal House with him. Jiyu, a month has almost passed. Why don't we head to the Azure Water Marshal House together tomorrow? Jiang Yushin asked. Tomorrow is fine. Jiyu replied. Since he had nothing to do now, he could go to the Azure Water Marshal House anytime. All right. It's settled then. Jiang Yushin said. Then why don't we just stay here tonight? It'll be more convenient for us to travel early tomorrow morning. At this moment, Jiang Yuchu teased with a playful look in her eyes. Since 3 days ago, when her mother said that she and her sister would be betrothed to Jiyu, she was relieved and no longer worried about this and that. Moreover, she had been staying by Jiyu's side. Not only could she cultivate her relationship with Jiyu, but she could also stimulate her sister. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Sister, you're not joking, right? Jiang Yushin couldn't help but ask. Yeah, don't joke about this kind of thing. Jiyu also followed Jiang Yueshin's words. I'm not joking. Jiang Yuchu looked at Jiyu and said with a smile, besides, we've already slept together once. What's the big deal about sleeping together again? Wait. Jiang Yushin suddenly said in surprise, when did you two? Of course it was a few days ago when I went to look for herbs with Jiyu. At that time, I slept on the same bed with Jiyu for a night. Jiang Yuchu said with a playful smile. You. Have you already done that? Jiang Yueshin's voice became softer and softer as she spoke, and her face became redder and redder. More or less. It was also that day that I found out that Jiyu was actually so bad. Jiang Yuchu deliberately said in a tone that could easily be misunderstood. You. Jiang Yueshin's mind immediately became confused. She pointed at Jiyu with a blushing face, but she couldn't say anything. Don't misunderstand. Nothing happened between me and her. She made it all up. Jiyu sighed helplessly. I didn't make it up. Jiang Yuchu still retorted in a teasing tone, that day. Have you forgotten what you did to me? Jiyu was stunned for a while, and then he realized that Jiang Yuchu was talking about him tickling the soles of her feet. This, he really didn't know what to say. Chapter 155. At this moment, Jiang Yushin gradually regained her senses. She said to Jiyu angrily, Jiyu, I didn't expect you to really lay your hands on my sister. I really misjudged you, you pervert. After cursing loudly, she pulled Jiang Yuechu's hand and quickly walked out of the room. Jiyu smiled bitterly. What else could he say? He couldn't tell the truth. That foot scratching. Jiang Yushin might even think of him as a pervert. At that time, it would be even harder to explain. He simply didn't explain and let Jiang Yushin and Jiang Yuchu leave. It was better that they left. If the 2 sisters stayed tonight, He would be so excited that he couldn't sleep. After that, Ji-yu continued to cultivate. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 10 by 999 times. At the same time, Jiang Yushin had already walked away with Jiang Yuchu. At this moment, Jiang Yushin finally stopped. She pulled Jiang Yuechu's hands and asked, "Sister, did that guy Ji-yu force you? What does it matter if he forced me or not?" Jiang Yuchu deliberately didn't answer Jiang Yueshin's question directly. "How can it not matter?" Jiang Yushin said, "If that guy really forced you, I won't talk to him anymore." Jiang Yuchu couldn't help but chuckle. "Looks like you still like him a lot, Yushin." "How could that be?" Jiang Yushin shifted her gaze away and said with a blushing face, Who would like that pervert? Alright, let's stop joking." At this time, Jiang Yuechu's tone became more serious. "Ji-yu, he didn't force me. Nothing happened between us." "Then why did you say that just now?" Jiang Yushin asked in confusion. At the same time, she blamed herself for blaming Ji-yu wrongly. "I did it to make Ji-yu suffer, but the most important thing is still you," Jiang Yuchu said softly. "Me?" Jiang Yushin pointed at herself and asked in confusion. "If you continue to make no progress with Ji-yu, I will have a headache," Jiang Yuchu said. As an older sister, she naturally wanted to see her younger sister get closer to the man she liked. However, because of her sister's personality, there was almost no progress after so long. She really couldn't stand it anymore. I can't do anything about it." Jiang Yushin pouted and said, "Who asked that guy to be an idiot? He doesn't know anything." "Oh, didn't you just say that you don't like Ji-yu? Now you're admitting it," Jiang Yuchu said with a playful smile. I, Jiang Yuchu didn't know how to hide it. She was so anxious that her face turned even redder. "If you like him, you like him. What's the big deal?" Jiang Yuchu said in a deep voice, "Tell me the truth." "I won't do anything." Jiang Yushin hesitated for a while and decided to tell the truth in her heart. "Yes, I do like Ji-yu. Isn't that good?" Jiang Yuchu said with a gratified smile. This dishonest sister of his was finally telling the truth. However, it was useless to say it to her. She had to say it in front of Ji-yu. Just as Jiang Yuchu was about to say this, Jiang Yushin said first, "Then, what do you think, sister?" "What do I think?" Jiang Yuchu didn't understand what her sister meant and asked immediately. "Sister, what kind of feelings do you have for him?" Jiang Yushin asked seriously. "So that's what you're asking?" Looking at her sister's serious eyes, Jiang Yuchu hesitated for a moment and said, "I like him too, so." "Yushin, can you accept that sister and you have the same man?" Hearing this, Jiang Yueshin's eyes struggled for a while before she slowly said in a low voice, "Yes." She thought about it for a long time and felt that her sister and Ji-yu were one of the most important people to her. It wouldn't be bad if they were together. "Okay, then we'll have to work hard." Jiang Yuchu smiled happily and said, "Otherwise, Ji-yu will be taken away by another woman." "What woman?" Jiang Yushin was so sensitive that she immediately asked, "Did that guy flirt again?" Chapter 156. Just like that Yu Shuyun from before, it's possible, Jiang Yuchu said with heartfelt sincerity. Yu Shuyun, Jiang Yushin had a deep impression of that name. Ji-yu had attended the alchemy conference with that woman, so there might be something fishy going on. "So, Yushin, you have to work hard too. Don't let Ji-yu be taken away by another woman," Jiang Yuchu said with a smile. Who cares? If he's taken away, so be it. What does it have to do with me?" Jiang Yushin crossed her arms in front of her chest and said proudly. But in fact, she cared a lot about it. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience points gained, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience points gained, 10 by 999 times. It was late at night. Although Ji felt that he had reached the peak of the 6th level of the defensive profound realm, he still didn't have the opportunity to break through. He still had to leave early the next morning, so he had no choice but to stop and sleep. Early the next morning, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin gathered in Jiyu's room and prepared to leave. "Only the two of you came?" Jiyu looked around and asked as they walked downstairs. He thought that there would be many people from the City Lord mansion accompanying them, but he didn't expect the two sisters to come alone. "Yes, we already talked to Dad and Mom yesterday," Jiang Yushin said, "and Dad also sent an expert to secretly escort us." "An expert?" Jiyu thought as he activated his mind energy to observe the surroundings. Indeed, he found an aura in a very hidden corner. Although the aura was strong, it hadn't reached the Tongxian realm yet. "Later, tell that person in the dark to stop following us after we leave the Chaoyang ancient city," Jiyu said to Jiang Yushin. He didn't like people following him in the dark. Moreover, with his strength, the expert from the City Lord's mansion was completely unnecessary. "All right." Although Jiang Yushin didn't know why Jiyu did this, she still agreed. Compared to the so-called experts of the family, she trusted Jiyu more. After that, under the circumstances where almost no one knew about it, Jiyu and the other two took a carriage specially sent by the City Lord's mansion and set off for the imperial capital. After traveling for 2 days straight, they finally arrived at the first stop, the ancient city of brilliant radiance. The fastest shortcut to the imperial capital was to first reach the ancient radiant glow city, then take the spirit ship from the ancient radiant glow city to the imperial capital. After entering the brilliant ancient city, Jiyu couldn't help but think of the guy called Liu Ling from the alchemy conference not long ago. He remembered that this guy seemed to be from the ancient city of brilliant light. He didn't know if he would run into him this time. "Miss, it's getting late. Why don't we rest here in the ancient city of brilliant light for the night and take the spirit ship tomorrow?" At this moment, the coachman outside the carriage asked. This old coachman had been by the City Lord's side for more than 10 years, which was why the City Lord was relieved to let him go. "Okay," Jiang Yushin responded softly. Then, the coachman found a place to stop. He walked to the window and continued to say to Jiang Yushin, "Second miss, I heard that there is going to be a banquet in a nearby restaurant tonight. Do you want to go and take a look? Jiyu, what do you think?" Hearing the coachman's words, Jiang Yushin turned to Jiyu, wanting Jiyu to decide. "Sure, we can also stay in that restaurant," Jiyu said casually. In fact, he wasn't interested in the banquet at all. He just wanted to find a place to stay for the night. Chapter 157. Since Jiyu didn't have any objections, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin naturally didn't have any objections either. Under the guidance of the old coachman, Jiyu and the other two arrived at the restaurant the old coachman mentioned. As they walked, the old coachman said, "This restaurant is called the Cool Breeze Restaurant under the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. It's considered the most luxurious restaurant in the entire ancient Radiant City." Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Jiyu's expression couldn't help but change upon hearing these 3 words. Although he hadn't seen much of the world, he had heard of the famous Thousand Treasure Pavilion. The Thousand Treasure Pavilion was the most special and mysterious force in the Kanglan Empire. It controlled the economic lifeline of the entire empire. The Kanglan Empire Academy, the Qingxian sect, and the Chenyuan Martial House weren't on the same level as the Thousand Treasure Pavilion in terms of financial resources. However, they were still martial arts forces and couldn't be compared. In terms of overall strength, only the Alchemist Guild could barely compete with the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. After all, elixirs were the biggest industry in the Kanglan Empire. The Thousand Treasure Pavilion and the Alchemist Guild were the 2 giants of the Kanglan Empire. They were considered to be transcendent forces. As for the Cool Breeze restaurant in front of Jiyu, it naturally wouldn't be bad since it was a property under the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. The banquet is about to start. Young master and young miss, please go in quickly. I'll wait outside for the carriage. At this moment, the old coachman said. There's no rush. It doesn't matter if I attend the banquet or not. Jiyu said casually. Young master, don't say that. Almost all the outstanding young people in the ancient Radiant City are gathered at this banquet. It's said that even a big shot from the 1,000 Treasure Pavilion will be present. The old coachman said with a smile, if young master can get to know more geniuses, it will definitely be very beneficial for young master. Get to know more geniuses. Jiyu obviously knew that getting to know more geniuses would be beneficial, but he didn't care about that little bit of benefit. He was used to being alone and didn't like to curry favor with others. To put it bluntly, those fellows weren't worthy of him. There was no need for him to curry favor with them. Of course, Jiyu wouldn't say it out loud. She just nodded slightly at the old coachman. The old coachman didn't say anything else and turned back to guard the carriage. Jiyu, let's go take a look at the banquet first. Jiang Yuexin's eyes were filled with curiosity and excitement. She quickly walked into the restaurant. When she was in Chaoyang Ancient City, although she had been to the restaurant there, she had never been to such a luxurious restaurant. At the same time, she also wanted to participate in this banquet. Even Jiyu couldn't help but sigh. This restaurant was the most luxurious one he had ever seen since he came to this world. At first glance, it covered an area of at least a few hundred square meters. It was 5 stories high and was decorated with all kinds of gold and silver treasures. At this moment, a dignified receptionist walked up to them. "Excuse me, are the 3 of you here to attend the banquet?" "That's right," Jiyu said calmly. "Then, do the 3 of you have invitations?" The receptionist continued asking. "Invitation letter?" Jiyu frowned slightly and asked doubtfully. He didn't know that he needed something like an invitation letter. Wasn't this awkward? "Sorry, if the 3 of you don't have an invitation letter, you can't attend this banquet," the receptionist said immediately. "Then let's forget about it." Jiyu hesitated for a moment, then turned to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin and said, "Jiang Yuexin's eyes seemed to be struggling. In fact, she really wanted to see this banquet. She wanted to ask Jiyu to think of a way, but she was a little embarrassed to ask. After thinking about it, she decided to forget about it. Anyway, it was just a moment of curiosity. There was no need to trouble Jiyu with this kind of thing. Jiang Yuchu soon noticed the look in her sister's eyes. She immediately put on a pitiful look and said to Jiyu coquettishly, "Jiyu tilde Yushin, and I really want to see this banquet. Think of a way tilde you rascal." Jiyu could tell at a glance that Jiang Yuchu was deliberately pretending, but he still compromised and sighed, "Forget it, I'll try and see if it works." "Okay tilde," Jiang Yuchu said happily. It was still a kind of exaggerated acting. Jiang Yushin was also happy to hear this. At the same time, Jiyu took out a bronze token from his waist and said to the receptionist, "I really don't have an invitation letter. See if this thing will work." Chapter 158. This is, when the receptionist saw the bronze token in Jiyu's hand, she was stunned for a moment before exclaiming, "Qian Yuan token?" "Oh," Jiyu asked curiously, "so this thing is called the Qian Yuan token." If the receptionist did not mention it, he would not have known what the bronze token was. After all, the beautiful mansion master did not explain it in detail. He only knew that with this token, he could enter the Qian Yuan martial house directly. Other than that, he knew nothing about it. "You are a member of the Qian Yuan martial house." "Of course you can." The receptionist came back to her senses and said immediately. At first glance, she thought she was mistaken because the bronze token in front of her was the Qian Yuan token that only members of the Qian Yuan martial house could have. There was a rule in this banquet. As long as one was a member of the 3 holy lands, they could enter and leave as they pleased, regardless of whether they had an invitation letter or not. After all, the 3 holy lands gathered the most talented martial artists in the entire Kanglan Empire. No matter who it was, they were all geniuses who could shake a region. Obviously, this young man in front of her met this rule. Then, are these 2 ladies the same? The receptionist looked at Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. "They are the same as me." After saying that, Jiyu said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, "You 2 take out your tokens too." Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin nodded and took out the bronze token from their storage rings. Seeing this, The receptionist's expression immediately became a lot more shocked. 3 geniuses of the Chen Yuan Martial House appeared at the same time. This was a rare scene. "The 3 of you, please follow me," she said respectfully. The receptionist did not dare to neglect the 3 geniuses of the Chen Yuan Martial House. Jiyu did not say anything and followed the receptionist calmly. Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin followed behind Jiyu. Ding. Master has taken a step forward, mid-level 10,000 flash experience gained, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master has taken a step forward, mid-level 10,000 flash experience gained, 1 by 999 times. Under the guidance of the receptionist, Jiyu and the other 2 went directly to the 5th floor of the restaurant, which was also the highest floor. As soon as they reached the 5th floor, they realized that this place was even more luxurious than the 1st floor. The walls and ceiling were decorated with dazzling treasures, and there were many luxurious banquets placed around them. Jiang Yushin was like a child. She slipped out first and looked around, but she didn't appear to be too childish. As the older sister, Jiang Yuchu naturally chased after her. She had to look after her younger sister. Only Ji Yu was still walking leisurely, looking around at the scene. However, at this moment, a young woman with average looks and temperament walked towards him. She smiled and said, "Young master, are you also here to participate in the banquet?" It wasn't until the young woman spoke that Ji Yu finally noticed her. Ji Yu just casually responded. "This little girl is Brilliant Moon Ancient City's Zheng family, Zheng Xian. Greetings, young master." The young woman named Zheng Xian politely greeted. Although Ji Yu didn't know what the woman in front of him was planning, since her attitude was good, he also replied in a friendly manner, "Yu, ordinary person." He didn't want to reveal his true identity in front of strangers. "Yu." Hearing Ji Yu's words, Zheng Xian frowned slightly. She thought about it carefully. Brilliant Moon Ancient City didn't have a large family called Yu family, so there was no need to talk about the other small families. Moreover, she had never heard of the name Yu. It seemed that the other party was really an ordinary person. Immediately, Zheng Xian's eyes flashed with disappointment, and the smile on her face completely disappeared. "Sorry to disturb, goodbye." After coldly leaving these words, Zheng Xian turned around and left. Ji Yu suddenly felt a little baffled. What did this woman mean? However, Zheng Xian didn't go far before she found a handsome young man and continued to repeat the words she said to Ji Yu. Moreover, when she heard that the young man was a famous person from a large family, Zheng Xian immediately became excited and kept fawning over him. Ji Yu finally understood. This frivolous woman was clearly looking down on him. However, it didn't matter. He couldn't be bothered to accept this kind of ordinary woman even if she gave it to him for free. Chapter 159. Ji Yu no longer paid attention to Zheng Xian. When he came back to his senses, he realized that Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin had run to the front and seemed to be entangled by someone. When he took a closer look, he realized that it was the guy named Liu Ling who had a conflict with him at the alchemy conference. "Ladies, did you just arrive here?" Liu Ling asked gently with a very polite attitude. "Who are you?" Jiang Yushin said rudely. For some reason, this young man in front of her made her feel a little disgusted. "I am the son of the Liu family's patriarch. My name is Liu Ling. May I ask for your names?" Liu Ling was still very amiable. "We don't need to tell you." At this time, Jiang Yuchu pulled Jiang Yuashin's hand and said, "Let's go." "Ladies, are you not giving me, Liu Ling, face?" Liu Ling's expression changed slightly as he stood in front of Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. "What do you want?" Jiang Yuchu frowned and said coldly. The commotion here immediately attracted the attention of many young men and women in the surroundings. "What's wrong with young Master Liu? Why do I feel that something is wrong? Maybe it's because that pair of sisters rejected young Master Liu, so young Master Liu is angry. I have to say, that pair of sisters are indeed very beautiful. It's a pity that young Master Liu beat me to it." The surrounding young men and women all had the attitude of watching the show and had no intention of helping at all. After all, The Liu family was the strongest family in the ancient Brilliant City, and Liu Ling was the eldest young master of the Liu family, so no one dared to provoke him. As long as you accompany this young master for a drink or two, this young master will definitely not make things difficult for you. Otherwise, Liu Ling said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin with a smile. Hearing Liu Ling's threat, Jiang Yuxin's expression immediately turned ugly. She glared at Liu Ling. Jiang Yuchu shielded Jiang Yushin behind her. She stared coldly at Liu Ling and said, "Get lost." "Yo, you're quite stubborn." Liu Ling giggled and said, "Let's see if you can continue to be so unyielding." "You." When Jiang Yuchu was about to say something, a familiar figure appeared in front of her. Ding. Master has used the middle profound rank skill Myriad Flash. Experience gained from the middle profound rank skill Myriad Flash, 300 by 999 times. This was Ji Yu using the Myriad Flash. In the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. "You guys go to the side. Leave this to me." Ji Yu tilted her head and said softly to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. "Okay." Jiang Yuchu nodded and pulled Jiang Yushin to the side. "You. Why are you here?" At first, Liu Ling didn't react. But soon, he realized that the young man in front of him was Ji Yu. "What does my presence have to do with a piece of trash like you?" Ji Yu looked at Liu Ling and said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings were in an uproar. Trash. F***ck, where did this guy come from? He actually dares to call young Master Liu trash in front of him. What's so strange about that? Haven't you heard? This young man named Ji Yu defeated Liu Ling in the alchemy conference not long ago and won first place. So this young man is the #1 in the alchemy conference's double competition. I was wondering why Ji Yu's name sounded so familiar. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant in front of young Master Liu. Hearing the discussions around him, Liu Ling's scar was once again exposed. His face instantly darkened. He would never forget the scene that happened at the alchemy conference. "You brat, you're courting death." Liu Ling gritted his teeth and said. "You can try and see who's courting death," Ji Yu said. Liu Ling snorted coldly. "I know that your martial arts are very strong, but do you really think that you have the qualifications to be impudent in front of this young master?" He admitted that he couldn't beat Ji Yu, but there were still powerhouses in the clan secretly protecting him. However, Liu Ling didn't know, and didn't believe, that even the powerhouse behind him might not be a match for Ji Yu. Ji Yu still didn't change his expression. "Cut the crap. If you want to do it, then do it." Just as the two of them were about to draw their swords, an excited voice suddenly came from the side. "Look, the daughter of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, Leng Rumeng, is here." Chapter 160. Everyone's attention was focused on the entrance of the staircase as soon as he finished speaking. Even Liu Ling paused and subconsciously looked at the staircase. Only Ji Yu felt a little disappointed. The main character was here, so he couldn't teach Liu Ling a good lesson. Leng Rumeng, the daughter of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, sounded like a big shot, so he had to give her some face. In the next moment, a beautiful figure appeared in front of everyone. The woman was about 20 years old. She was dressed in blue and had a willowy figure. Her appearance was pure and exquisite, and her skin was as white as jade. Especially the beauty mark on her eyebrows, she was extremely charming. Beautiful. Everyone's eyes were deeply attracted by this woman. Even Ji Yu, who had seen many beautiful women, couldn't help but take a few more glances. It was normal for beautiful women to attract attention, but he was just purely admiring and didn't have any other thoughts. Soon, Ji Yu retracted his gaze. At this time, he found that Jiang Yuchu was looking at him with a teasing gaze, while Jiang Yushin had a dissatisfied look on her face. Her small mouth was slightly pouted, as if she was angry. "You pervert, looking at a beautiful woman made your soul fly away." Jiang Yushin pouted. Ji Yu couldn't help but poke Jiang Yuxin's slightly pouted mouth with his finger. Then, like a balloon leaking air, Ji Yu couldn't help but laugh. "What do you mean my soul flew away? Her beauty isn't enough to make me like that. TSK, do you think this young lady will believe you?" At this time, Jiang Yushin pouted again. Her face was slightly red as she whispered, "Then, who do you think is prettier between me and that woman?" As soon as Jiang Yushin said this, Jiang Yuchu immediately gave Ji Yu a crazy look. Naturally, Ji Yu noticed Jiang Yuechu's look. Then, he smacked his palm and seemed to have realized something. "What's there to compare? You're a little girl, she's a big sister," Ji Yu said. "Little girl? Big sister?" Jiang Yushin was confused. What does that mean? Jiang Yuchu was speechless. What was going on? Although she did not understand the meaning behind Ji Yu's words, she felt that it was definitely not something good. "Nothing," Ji Yu said directly, "and that place of yours. That's why there's no comparison at all." As he spoke, his gaze slowly moved down to Jiang Yueshin's chest. Noticing the look in Ji Yu's eyes, Jiang Yushin instantly understood something. She immediately said with extreme shame and indignation, "You bastard." However, she knew her limits. Her voice was not loud and did not attract the attention of the people around her. Perhaps she felt that scolding wasn't enough, so she even used her small fists to punch Ji Yu. Because Jiang Yushin was too short, her little fists all hit Ji Yu's chest. Ding! Master's body is injured. Experience gained from the inferior yellow rank profound skill thick earth armor, 1 by 999 times. Ding! Master's body is injured. Experience gained from the inferior yellow rank profound skill thick earth armor, 1 by 999 times. However, Ji Yu allowed Jiang Yushin to punch him with her little fists. Because Jiang Yushin did not use much strength, it was no different from tickling him. This time, Jiang Yuchu was completely speechless. It was originally a very simple multiple-choice question, but Ji Yu not only did not choose the best answer, but also angered Jiang Yushin. At this time, she was inexplicably glad that she did not have the same personality as her sister. Otherwise, it would be too uncomfortable. What just happened here? At this time, Leng Ruming looked around and said. Following this ethereal voice that sounded like a nightingale, most people finally came back to their senses. "Miss Leng, I am Liu Ling from the Liu family. Just now, this brat took the initiative to provoke me, so I almost couldn't help but teach him a lesson," Liu Ling explained to Leng Ruming in a flattering tone. Although he had always been very lecherous, this beautiful woman in front of him was the daughter of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. Unless he did not want to live, he did not dare to be rude. Regarding Liu Ling's unreasonable pestering, the surrounding people despised him. Although they could not afford to provoke Liu Ling, they despised this kind of behavior. As for Ji Yu, he did not take it to heart at all. After all, he knew clearly in his heart whether it was true or not, so there was no need to argue. Besides, arguing with this kind of trash was also embarrassing him. However, Leng Ruming did not pay attention to Liu Ling at all. She did not even look at Liu Ling. Her beautiful eyes that were as bright as the starry sky stared straight at Ji Yu. "You are Ji Yu?" Chapter 161. "I'm Ji Yu. What can I do for you, miss?" Ji Yu was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the woman in front of him would recognize him. At this time, Liu Ling realized that he was ignored by Leng Ruming. His face turned green and purple, and he looked very ugly. As the young master of the Liu clan, he had never suffered such humiliation. But the other party was the daughter of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, so he could only swallow his pride. Seeing Liu Ling's deflated appearance, many of the surrounding people were secretly amused. There were also some people who were quietly mocking her. Liu Ling has always looked down on others. Today, he finally tasted it. Hehe, the most important thing is that Leng Ruming is the daughter of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. Her status is extremely noble. Liu Ling can't do anything to her. It's really fun. But that young man is worthy of being called an alchemy genius. Even Leng Ruming recognizes him. If I can make Leng Ruming remember his name, I will die without regrets. Many people around were laughing in a low voice. Although Liu Ling couldn't hear what these people were saying, he knew that they must be laughing at him. His face became even uglier. Ruming has heard of young master's name for a long time. Nothing else. Lung Rumeng said with a calm expression. Then I'll give you face and ignore that guy. Ji Yu said politely. The guy he was talking about was naturally Liu Ling. Rumeng doesn't know the person you're talking about. Young master, please feel free to do as you please. Lung Rumeng was also very polite. Seeing that the beautiful woman in front of him didn't put on any airs, Ji Yu returned a friendly smile. He originally thought that this Lung Rumeng was another ice beauty like Nangong Morching. He didn't expect that she would be so easy to get along with. However, Ji Yu overlooked one point. Lung Rumeng was only respectful to the strong. She wouldn't even look at someone like Liu Ling. Jiang Yushan didn't say anything, as if she was still angry about what had just happened. Hearing Lung Rumeng's blunt words, Liu Ling's face immediately darkened. At this time, Lung Rumeng just happened to pass by Liu Ling. She didn't even look at Liu Ling, as if Liu Ling was air. For the rest of the banquet, Liu Ling seemed to be autistic and did not interact with anyone. No one went to drink with him. After all, they were disgusted by Liu Ling's previous behavior. Liu Ling didn't dare to continue looking for trouble with Ji Yu because Ji Yu seemed to have a good relationship with Lung Rumeng. It wouldn't be good if Lung Rumeng looked for trouble with him. During this time, many people went to propose a toast to Ji Yu. Even the noble Lung Rumeng treated Ji Yu so politely, they had to curry favor with him. Although Ji Yu didn't take the initiative to look for others, he didn't refuse when others came to propose a toast out of courtesy. As for those who coveted Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan before, they didn't dare to get in touch with Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan because in their minds, these sisters were probably Ji Yu's women. After an unknown amount of time, Ji Yu felt a little bored, but the banquet was not over yet. It's meaningless to continue to stay here. Why don't we go and rest first? He said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan. Jiang Yuchu had no objection, and Jiang Yushan had enough to eat and play. Then, Ji Yu and the other two left. They came as they pleased, and left as they pleased. No one dared to say anything. Only Lung Rumeng asked, "Young master, are you planning to go back?" "That's right," Ji Yu responded. If Rumeng didn't guess wrong, young master should be looking for a place to spend the night. Lung Rumeng said, "Why don't you stay in our restaurant?" "That's fine," Ji Yu said. In fact, he had planned to spend the night in this restaurant, so there was no need for her to say anything. But he didn't want to embarrass her, so he pretended to be a little embarrassed. "Then Rumeng will lead the way for young master." Lung Rumeng immediately got up and walked over with an elegant and dignified posture. "Then I'll have to trouble you," Ji Yu said with some surprise in his eyes. He was very surprised that the daughter of the Thousand Treasure Pavilion was willing to lead the way in person. Not only him, but everyone around was also stunned. There was only this young man who could make Lung Rumeng go to such an extent. If it was an ordinary genius, Lung Rumeng probably wouldn't even bother to pay attention to him. Chapter 162. Under Lung Rumeng's lead, Ji Yu, Jiang Yuchu, and Jiang Yushan came to an extremely luxurious room. "This is the most luxurious room in the restaurant. Is young master satisfied?" Lung Rumeng introduced. "Very good." Ji Yu looked around. Whether it was the furniture or decorations, they were all very luxurious and beautiful. But at this moment, he noticed that there was only one big bed in the huge room. He immediately asked Lung Rumeng, "Why is there only one bed here? There are 3 of us. Aren't these 2 girls young master's companions?" Lung Rumeng was also puzzled. She originally thought that the 2 girls accompanying them were Ji Yu's companions. While speaking, her gaze turned to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan. Being stared at by Lung Rumeng, Jiang Yuashin's face immediately became a little red. She snorted and said, "Who is this bastard's companion?" However, Lung Rumeng saw the truth from the expression and tone of the girl in pink. Jiang Yuechu's expression did not change. She nodded and said, "That's right, we are Ji Yu's companions." The tone of this sentence was a little special. It was as if she was declaring sovereignty to Lung Rumeng. But Lung Rumeng did not care. She turned to Ji Yu and said, "Since the 2 girls have said so, I won't disturb young master. Please go ahead." Ji Yu did not know what to say. He could only accept Lung Rumeng's words. Then, Lung Rumeng walked out of the room and closed the door. However, it didn't take long before an old woman appeared beside her. "Young miss, is it really necessary to take care of that young man?" the old woman said in a low and hoarse voice. Although young Miss's behavior was not very good, with her understanding of young Miss's character, it was very amazing that she could do this to a stranger. "You don't understand. That young master's potential is very terrifying. He is worthy of our friendship," Lung Rumeng said in a cold tone. She knew Ji-yu like the back of her hand. The only thing she didn't know was her true identity. She couldn't find out what Ji-yu had experienced before she was adopted by the poor couple in Chaoyang Ancient City. It was as if everything that had happened before that had been deliberately erased. At the same time, it was already late at night. Ji-yu sat on the bed and prepared to sleep. "You two sisters sleep together. I'll sleep on the side," he said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. "You don't have to tell me that. I don't want to sleep with you," Jiang Yushin said softly. "In fact, you must really want to sleep with Ji-yu, right?" At this moment, Jiang Yuchu whispered into Jiang Yueshin's ear. Jiang Yushin didn't know if it was because her ears were too sensitive or because of some other reason, but her face immediately turned red. "Sister, don't talk nonsense." Looking at her cute sister, Jiang Yuchu couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. Then she turned to Ji-yu and said with a smile, "Ji-yu, you'd better sleep between Yushin and me. If you really want it that badly, then beg me. I might be able to reluctantly accept it." Jiang Yushin turned her face away and said with a slightly red face. She seemed to be very unwilling, but in fact, she was looking forward to it. "No, I think I'd better sleep on the floor." However, Ji-yu said with a calm face. Because when he saw Jiang Yuechu's evil smile, he felt that it was definitely not a good thing. Ji-yu casually spread a blanket on the floor and then took a set of quilts, so that she could sleep. Seeing that Ji-yu was ready to sleep, Jiang Yushin was dumbfounded. She thought that Ji-yu would definitely accept it, but she didn't expect him to reject it so casually and even want to sleep on the floor. Even Jiang Yuchu couldn't help but be stunned. She already couldn't understand what Ji-yu was thinking. Were she and her sister really that unattractive? Although Jiang Yushin felt that it was a pity, she couldn't put down her face to tell Ji-yu the truth, so she lay on the bed without saying a word. At this time, Jiang Yuchu also changed her clothes and went to bed. At midnight, Jiang Yushin still couldn't sleep. There was an uncontrollable throbbing in her heart. After hesitating for a long time, she finally made a decision. Then, Jiang Yushin secretly got off the bed and tiptoed quietly to Ji-yu. However, at this moment, she suddenly heard her sister's voice. "Yushin, I didn't expect you to be so bold." Jiang Yushin was shocked. She saw her sister curled up in Ji-yu's right side under the quilt, hugging Ji-yu tightly. Chapter 163. Jiang Yushin almost shouted in excitement, but she didn't want to wake Ji-yu up, so she forced herself to hold it in. At this moment, although she felt very embarrassed, she did not want to lose to her elder sister. She unknowingly burrowed under the blanket on Ji-yu's right side. Jiang Yuchu just smiled and didn't say anything. Jiang Yushin couldn't calm down for the entire night. She didn't know how much time had passed before she fell asleep unknowingly. The next day, Ji-yu naturally woke up. However, when he woke up, a system notification sounded in his mind. Ding! Master resisted the lowly's temptation. Bronze willpower gained experience. 1 by 999 times. Ding! Master resisted the lowly's temptation. Bronze willpower gained experience. 1 by 999 times. Only then did he realize that he was being hugged by Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. At this moment, the two lollis were hugging him tightly like octopuses. Ji-yu couldn't help but be a little confused. Wasn't he sleeping on the floor? He looked at the bed again. He was indeed on the floor right now. Could it be that the two sisters ran over to sleep on their own accord? Ji-yu was silent for a moment. F***ck, there are such stupid people in this world. They can't even tell the difference between the bed and the floor. Ji-yu couldn't help but complain in his heart. Being a straightforward person, he subconsciously thought that the two idiotic sisters woke up at night to go to the bathroom and walked to the wrong place in a daze. As Ji-yu sat up, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin were both woken up. Jiang Yuchu rubbed her eyes and said in a daze, "Ji-yu, good morning, hurry up and get up." Ji-yu couldn't help but complain, "I really don't know what you guys did. It's fine if it was just one person, but both of you can even get the wrong place to sleep. I really have to hand it to you guys." However, at this moment, Jiang Yushin, who had just woken up, suddenly exclaimed, Why am I sleeping here? Yushin, have you forgotten how daring you were last night?" Jiang Yuchu said with a playful smile. Ever since she was praised by Ji-yu last time, Jiang Yuchu smiled more and more often. Hearing her elder sister's words, Jiang Yushin gradually recalled what had happened yesterday. Her face immediately turned red as she said, "Elder sister, aren't you the same? That's different. I was worried that Ji-yu would be too lonely to sleep alone at night, so I came to accompany Ji-yu." Jiang Yuchu teased, "But what about you, Yushin? I'm afraid you have other intentions, don't you?" "You don't talk nonsense." What intentions do I have?" Jiang Yushin blushed, and her words became incoherent. "I'm the same as elder sister. I just want to accompany Ji-yu." Jiang Yuchu easily saw through her younger sister and smiled without saying anything. "What are you guys talking about? What intentions?" Only Ji-yu didn't understand what the two sisters were talking about. "Nothing." Jiang Yushin immediately said to Ji-yu, "Don't think too much. I don't have any special feelings for you." Then, she snorted and turned her head to the other side. Although the bashful expression on Jiang Yueshin's face betrayed her, Ji-yu really didn't think too much about it and didn't care about Jiang Yueshin's words. "I know, so hurry up and get up. We still have to hurry after breakfast," Ji-yu said. At this moment, Jiang Yuchu couldn't help but lament in her heart. These two guys are really... It's hard to explain in a few words. Every time she wanted to secretly add fuel to the fire, it would be ruined by these two guys. Then, Ji-yu and the other two left the room to prepare for breakfast. But not long after they walked out of the room, they met Lung Rumeng. "Are the three of you going to eat breakfast?" As soon as they met, Lung Rumeng asked. "Yes." Ji-yu nodded slightly. Being able to meet Lung Rumeng so early in the morning made him suspicious. He didn't understand what this woman's intentions were. "The three of you don't have to go through so much trouble. Rumeng has already sent someone to prepare lunch for the three of you. It will be sent to the three of you soon," Lung Rumeng said. "Well, thank you, miss." Ji-yu paused for a moment and continued, "Then, miss, do you have anything else?" "There is indeed something, but it's not important." Lung Rumeng said, "If I'm not wrong, the three of you should be taking a spirit ship to the imperial capital next, right?" Chapter 164. That's right. Ji-yu nodded. He didn't find it strange that the other party knew so much about him. After all, the other party was the daughter of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. With the influence of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, they probably even knew where and when he had been. Although he didn't like the feeling of being found out, at least the other party didn't mean to harm him, so he didn't care. However, Jiang Yushin didn't think as thoroughly as Ji-yu. She couldn't help but ask Lung Rumeng, "How do you know we're going to the imperial capital? Are you spying on us?" "Miss Jiang, I just sent someone to check and roughly know your situation. I don't mean anything else." Lung Rumeng said indifferently, "At least I won't fight with you for Ji Gongzi now, so you can rest assured." Jiang Yuchu keenly noticed that something was wrong and asked, "Why do you say now?" "Because I don't have feelings for Ji-yu now, but who knows what will happen in the future." Lung Rumeng's expression was very calm, as if she was talking about something trivial. "Even if you have feelings for Ji-yu in the future, we won't agree," Jiang Yuchu said bluntly. The smell of tit for tat was very strong. "Why do I need the two ladies' consent? Isn't this Ji-yu's personal wish?" Lung Rumeng's expression didn't change, and her tone was still polite. "Besides, Ji Gongzi will become a powerhouse sooner or later. Isn't it normal for a powerhouse to have several wives and concubines?" Jiang Yuchu didn't know what to say for a moment. She was speechless because the other party was right. It wasn't strange for a powerhouse to have several wives and concubines. At this time, Jiang Yushan couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't help but ask Jiyu, "Jiyu, do you want to have several wives and concubines in the future?" Jiyu was speechless. Why was the spearhead pointing at him again? To be honest, if he had to choose, he would definitely choose a harem with several wives and concubines. A harem was great. Was that not the case? However, he was smarter now. There were some things that he couldn't say in front of Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan. Although he didn't really understand why he couldn't say it, it was fine as long as he could avoid as much trouble as possible. So, Jiyu decided not to say anything. At this moment, Jiyu, Jiang Yuchu, and Jiang Yushan did not notice that the corners of Lung Ruming's mouth curled up for a fleeting moment. Let's get down to business first. I have 3 high-class tickets here. I'll give them to the 3 of you. Lung Ruming said indifferently, at that time, the 3 of you can board the ship for free with this ticket. You don't have to pay any fees. As she spoke, she took out 3 tickets from somewhere. Thank you, Miss G. You took the opportunity to leave the topic and went forward to take the 3 high-class tickets from Lung Ruming. Well then, young Master Jiyu, we'll meet again if fate allows. After speaking, Lung Ruming turned and left. Looking at the elegant figure of Lung Ruming leaving, Jiyu nodded slightly. Although Lung Ruming's help from yesterday to now was not very important to him, after all, he still had tens of thousands of gold coins, but anyway, he remembered Lung Ruming's kindness. Even if the kindness was not great, he would not completely ignore it. Suddenly, Jiyu couldn't help but think that Lung Ruming's intention might be this, to make friends with him. Forget it, it doesn't matter. Jiyu thought about it and felt that there was nothing to care about, so it was better to go back to the room and wait for breakfast. Let's go back to the room first and wait for lunch to arrive. After eating, we'll go to the spirit ship. Jiyu said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan. Jiang Yushan was a little absent-minded. Obviously, she was still upset about the matter of having 3 wives and 4 concubines just now. Although Jiang Yuchu didn't say anything, she was a little uncomfortable in her heart. Chapter 165. After breakfast, Jiyu, Jiang Yushan, and Jiang Yuchu left the Cool Breeze Inn. The old coachman was already waiting outside, and the 3 of them immediately got on the carriage. Then, they went to the place where they would take the spirit ship. Not long after sitting in the carriage, Jiyu began to cultivate. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Time passed very quickly, and it felt like it was not long before the carriage had arrived at the shore. After getting off the carriage, they could see the endless river and more than a dozen huge spirit ships. Jiyu could not help but feel a little shocked. This was the first time he had seen such a huge ship. At a glance, it could accommodate at least hundreds or thousands of people. Young master, miss, you can directly board the ship next. At this time, the old coachman said. Okay. Jiyu nodded. After bidding farewell to the old coachman, Jiyu and the other 2 walked to a huge spirit ship that was about to set off. After showing the tickets given by Lung Ruming, the 3 of them entered the spirit ship without any obstruction. Jiyu and the other 2 walked around the spirit ship and found that the rooms on the first floor were all low-class rooms. He still remembered that Lung Ruming said that these 3 tickets were all high-class tickets. These are all low-class rooms, and these tickets are high-class tickets. Let's go up to the 2nd floor and have a look. Jiyu said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan. Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan nodded and followed Jiyu to the 2nd floor. When they arrived at the 2nd floor, Jiyu saw that it was all medium-class rooms. Then, the 3 of them walked up to the 3rd floor. These are all high-class rooms. You can choose the room you like. Jiyu said. In the end, Jiyu randomly chose a high-class room, while Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushan both chose rooms next to him, one on the left and one on the right. As soon as she entered the room, Jiyu felt that the profound energy inside the room was very different from the outside world. In layman's terms, the Xian Qi in a high-class room was much higher in quality, density, and other aspects compared to the outside world. Jiyu began to practice martial arts. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 20 by 999 times. As expected, the efficiency of cultivating in this high-class room was doubled. He didn't know how this spirit ship was made, but it actually had such a miraculous effect. After that, Jiyu stayed in her room to practice martial arts. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 20 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 20 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Martial arts cultivation has successfully broken through to the early stage of defensive profound realm. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Martial arts cultivation has successfully broken through to the middle stage of defensive profound realm. 3 days later, the spirit ship successfully arrived at the imperial capital. In these 3 days, Jiyu's martial arts cultivation had also successfully broken through to the middle stage of defensive profound realm. As the spirit ship docked, Jiyu, Jiang Yuchu, and Jiang Yushin all got off the spirit ship together. At this moment, a majestic imperial capital appeared in front of Jiyu. The imperial capital was not only the center of power of the Kanglan Empire, but also the most prosperous place in the entire empire. Entering the empire, Jiyu seemed to have come to a new world. The prosperity in the city was extremely shocking. Defensive profound realm martial artists were like cabbages here, and the most common body tempering realm martial artists were extremely rare here. Do you know how to get to the Chenyuan martial house? If not, go buy a map. At this moment, Jiyu said to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. I don't know. I've never been here before. Jiang Yushin said. Jiang Yuchu also shook her head. Of course, they didn't know how to get to the Chenyuan martial house. After all, they had almost never left Chaoyang ancient city, except for the Demon Beast mountain range. On the way, Jiyu casually bought a map of the imperial capital. She found that the entire imperial capital was very big. With the naked eye, she could see that the imperial capital was at least 10 times bigger than Chaoyang ancient city. Chapter 166. The imperial capital had such a large territory, so it was natural that it could accommodate more forces. There were also several red dots on the map. These red dots represented powerful forces. Among them, the 3 biggest forces were the Imperial Palace, the Lingbao Pavilion, and the Alchemist Guild. Other than that, the smaller red dots represented the 3 holy lands of martial arts, which were the Kanglan Empire Academy, the Qingxian sect, and the Chenyuan martial house. Jiyu was familiar with these names. Jiyu and the other two's destination was the Chenyuan martial house. They followed the route on the map and headed to the Chenyuan martial house. Jiang Yuchu knew that her and her sister's appearance would bring some unnecessary trouble to Jiyu, so she chose 2 pink veils and put them on her and her sister's faces. It was not a long journey. After about half an hour, Jiyu and the other 2 arrived at the Chenyuan martial house. Although they were stopped by the guards, they were immediately let in after showing the Chenyuan token. Not long after they entered the Chenyuan martial house, Jiyu found some books about the Chenyuan martial house. You can go to the female dormitory to have a rest. There will be classes starting tomorrow. Jiyu said after learning about the Chenyuan martial house. What about you? Jiang Yushin asked. I'll go back to the male dormitory after a while. You can go first. Jiyu said. Okay. Jiang Yushin did not say anything and walked towards the female dormitory with Jiang Yuchu. Ding. Master has taken a step forward. Experience gained from the Mystic Middle Rank Myriad Flash, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master has taken a step forward. Experience gained from the Mystic Middle Rank Myriad Flash, 1 by 999 times. At this time, Ji Yu was still wandering around the Chenyuan martial house. He could see that the people passing by were all students of the martial house. However, he coincidentally found that the Chenyuan martial house didn't force the students to wear uniform because some of the students wore the special clothes of the martial house, while others wore their own clothes. As for Ji Yu, she had already taken off her black robe and was wearing a simple white robe. She looked very ordinary. As they walked, Ji Yu accidentally came to a maple forest path. He was surrounded by maple trees, but he didn't notice that there was almost no one around. He continued to go deeper, wanting to appreciate the scenery inside. On the other side, a few disciples of the martial house were walking towards them. When they saw a young man in white walking into the depths of the maple forest, they began to whisper to each other. F***ck, it can't be. That guy actually dares to continue walking inside. That's the tigress's territory. I think he's a newcomer who just came here not long ago. Didn't we just hold the entrance exam a month ago? I don't think he knows what this maple forest means. That guy is going to be in trouble later. Qi Ling-er's reputation as a tigress is not just for show. That woman has never been gentle with men. These disciples were just whispering in private. Ji Yu, who had already walked far away, didn't hear them at all. He still walked into the depths of the maple forest without stopping. Not only was the scenery in the maple forest beautiful, but the mystic qi in the air was also relatively strong. Ji Yu unconsciously came to a small stream. However, when he walked to a big stone and was about to sit down, a beautiful figure suddenly walked out from behind the stone. The girl had beautiful facial features. Her black hair was like a waterfall, and she was as pure as ice. As she walked out, she wrapped a cloth around her chest with her hands. Her delicate body was almost naked except for her private parts. Just like that, she was exposed in front of Ji Yu. Her proud curves were in full view. In the next moment, their gazes met, and the atmosphere seemed to have frozen into frost. Chapter 167. You lecher. The girl came back to her senses and felt ashamed and resentful. She covered her chest with one hand and took out a sharp sword with the other hand. She was emitting a powerful aura. At this time, Ji Yu also came back to his senses. He did not want to be entangled with this girl, so he ran away without saying a word. Ding. Master has used the Mystic Middle Level skill Myriad Flash. Experience gained from the Mystic Middle Level skill Myriad Flash, 300 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. The Intermediate Profound Rank Mystical skill, Myriad Flash, has successfully broken through to the peak of perfection. Ding. The Intermediate Profound Rank Mystical skill, Myriad Flash, has reached the perfection realm. It has automatically upgraded to the Advanced Profound Rank Mystical skill, Myriad Flash. Almost in the blink of an eye, Ji Yu had run out of the maple forest. At the same time, his movement skill had also been upgraded to the Advanced Profound Rank Mystical skill, Myriad Flash. At the same time, the girl wanted to teach this lecher a lesson, but she found that he had disappeared without a trace. Shameless bastard. I'm so angry. The girl was so angry that she stomped her feet. She was seen naked by a strange man and even let him run away. The more she thought about it, the more embarrassed she was. She wanted to cut that guy into pieces. Everyone in the Chenyuan martial house knew that this place was only for her, Qi Ling-er. That guy dared to break in so brazenly. No matter what, she would never let that lecher go. However, Qi Ling-er was worried that someone else would break in, so she quickly put on her clothes. After a while, she gradually calmed down and thought carefully about what had just happened. Although the young man in white was shameless and lecherous, he was very agile. Before she could do anything, he had already disappeared. His strength was definitely extraordinary. However, she recalled the young man's face. She had never seen him in the martial house before. Logically speaking, she should have some impression of the strong students in the martial house. Qi Ling-er shook her head and looked into the distance. No matter what, I will never let you go. At this moment, Ji Yu was already far away from the maple forest. He was very helpless. He just went in to have a look. Who would have thought that there would be a woman taking a bath in there? Besides, would a normal person bathe in such a place? Although, it was indeed a unique scenery. After that, Ji-yu went to the male dormitory. The dormitory was divided into outer palace students and inner palace students. Naturally, he was classified as an outer palace student. It was a courtyard in the outer manners dormitory area. This was his exclusive dormitory. As for the distinction between the outer house and the inner house, it was specifically used to distinguish the grades of the students. Relatively speaking, the resources that outer palace students and inner palace students could enjoy were also very different. Although the number of inner palace students was smaller, they were given more cultivation resources than the outer palace students. It was getting late. Ji-yu planned to get used to this new place tonight before going to bed. As for tomorrow's matter, it would have to wait until tomorrow. Ding. Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience gained, 10 by 999 times. Ji-yu felt that she was almost done cultivating, so she went to bed and fell asleep. The next day, Ji-yu woke up slightly later than usual. Just as he was about to go and see what class he had in the morning, there was a sudden knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Without thinking, Ji-yu instinctively thought that it was Jiang Yuchu or Jiang Yushin looking for him. Immediately, he walked up and opened the door. However, the moment he opened the door, what came into his sight was the girl with the corset yesterday. Ji-yu had just woken up and was still a little groggy. After looking at her for a while, she suddenly reacted and exclaimed in surprise, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" Qi Ling and Ji-yu exclaimed in unison. "Aren't you the one who came looking for me? Why are you so surprised?" Ji-yu couldn't help but complain. "Good, I finally found a lecher like you. Look at me." Qi Ling immediately exuded a dangerous aura. Just as she was about to attack Ji-yu, she suddenly stopped. "Forget it. My master is looking for you. I'll spare your life today." Chapter 168. Who's your master? Why is she looking for me? Ji-yu asked in confusion. He had only met this young lady once. Why would her master be looking for him? Wait a minute. Could it be that this young lady's master was looking for trouble with him? Why are you asking so many questions? I'm her master, the mansion master. Just follow me. Qi Ling's tone was not polite at all. After all, this young lady had just seen her naked yesterday. Mansion master? You mean mansion master Murong? Ji-yu asked. Upon hearing Qi Ling's words, he immediately thought of the beautiful lady in the purple dress. Her mysterious amethyst eyes had left a deep impression on him. That's right. I didn't expect you to know my master's surname. Qi Ling said in surprise. Ji-yu thought for a moment. If it was mansion master Murong, she should not be looking for trouble with him. Hey, why are you hesitating? Hurry up and follow me. However, Qi Ling had already lost her patience. She directly grabbed Ji-yu's hand and tried to pull Ji-yu away. However, in the next moment, she realized what she was doing. She immediately shook off Ji-yu's hand and said angrily, "You pervert. What the F***ck? I really have to hand it to you." Ji-yu almost cursed out loud. This woman was the one who grabbed his hand by force. How could she blame him for being a pervert? This was the first time he had seen such a person who made him speechless. Qi Ling also realized that she was in the wrong. However, she did not want to put down her pride and apologize to Ji-yu. Instead, she snorted and said, "What's the point of being so stingy? Forget it." Ji-yu could not be bothered to argue with this woman. He said, "Just take me there. Also, don't touch me again." "Fine, I won't touch you. Who wants to touch you? Besides, I haven't settled the score with you yet." Qi Ling did not want to back down. She continued to talk back. However, Ji-yu didn't care about this woman at all. The more he paid attention to her, the more insatiable she would be. After talking for a while, Qi Ling seemed to be unable to continue. Forget it, forget it. I'm a magnanimous person, so I won't argue with you. Come with me. Ji-yu followed Qi Ling-er in silence. Perhaps it was due to Qi Ling-er's presence, they attracted a lot of attention along the way. Holy *T. Am I seeing things? That man is actually so close to Qi Ling-er, and nothing happened to him at all. How strange. Didn't they say that Qi Ling-er hates men the most? Normally, no male students would dare to approach her. Could that young man be Qi Ling-er's partner? Otherwise, why would Qi Ling-er let a man get so close to her? TSK, TSK, TSK. If that's the case, the entire martial palace will be in an uproar. Many people regard Qi Ling-er as their dream lover. The surrounding martial house students were all happily discussing this matter. Qi Ling-er couldn't bear it anymore and quickened her pace. Ji-yu, on the other hand, had a nonchalant look on her face. It was as though she didn't hear the discussions around her at all. Ding. Master has taken a step forward. Experience gained from the high-grade profound rank profound skill 1000 illusions myriad flash, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master has taken a step forward. Experience gained from the high-grade profound rank profound skill 1000 illusions myriad flash, 1 by 999 times. About 10 minutes later, Ji-yu followed Qi Ling-er to a purple gold hall. After entering the purple gold hall, Ji-yu saw the purple-haired, purple-eyed beauty, Murong-zili. Why aren't you kneeling when you see my master? Qi Ling-er scolded Ji-yu. Ling-er, don't be rude. Suddenly, Murong-zili, who was sitting on the high platform, spoke up. Yes. Qi Ling-er replied. Then, she made a face at Ji-yu. Ji-yu ignored Qi Ling-er and asked Murong-zili, Mansion Master Murong, why are you looking for me this time? Ling-er, you can leave now. Although Qi Ling-er wanted to stay, she had no choice but to obey her master's order. After Qi Ling-er left the purple gold hall, Murong-zili said to Ji-yu, Ji-yu, I'm here to tell you something. Mansion Master, please speak. Ji-yu said. Our Qianyuan martial house has a Qianyuan ranking. It records the top 10 disciples in the martial Dao. They are also the core disciples. Murong-zili said calmly. Chapter 169. Core Student. Although Ji-yu didn't have a deep understanding of the Qianyuan martial house, he still knew some information about the core students. In the Qianyuan martial house, only the 10 strongest students were core students. They were all inner house students, and it seemed that they had to go through the inner house competition to select the 10 core students. But what did these core students have to do with Ji-yu? He was still an outer house student, so it was impossible for him to participate in the inner house competition. It seems that you should understand what a core student represents. This way, this martial house master won't waste any more words. Murong-zili said, in view of your outstanding performance in the previous entrance exam, this martial house master can make an exception and give you a chance to challenge a core student. Challenge a core student? Ji-yu was slightly stunned. That's right. Murong-zili said, you can choose any core student to challenge. If you succeed, you will take that core student's position. Then she added, of course, even if you fail or don't want to challenge, this martial house master won't do anything to you. I'm willing to accept this opportunity. Ji-yu agreed without hesitation. Was there even a need to think about it? To be able to directly challenge a core student, and once he wins, he can take over the core student's position. For him, this was simply a free benefit. In the entire Qianyuan martial house, there shouldn't be any Tongxian realm students. After all, even the girl from before was only at the 7th layer of the defensive profound realm. Okay, then you take this. Murong-zili took out a purple jade pendant. This jade pendant can represent this martial house master. You just need to take this jade pendant. As her voice fell, the purple jade pendant floated into Ji-yu's hand. I understand, then I'll take my leave first. After speaking, Ji-yu turned and left. Looking at Ji-yu's back, Murong-zili's strange purple eyes flickered. At this time, Ji-yu just walked out of the violet gold hall. The girl from before came over and asked curiously, What did my master say to you? It has nothing to do with you, Ji-yu said casually. She was too lazy to continue talking to him and walked past him. What do you mean? How does it have nothing to do with me? Qi Ling-er was displeased. However, Ji-yu did not react at all and ignored him once again. Seeing Ji-yu's attitude, Qi Ling-er was infuriated. However, the other party seemed to be related to her master, so she didn't dare to make a move recklessly. However, despite her anger, she still chose to follow behind Ji-yu. She wanted to see what this guy was going to do. Of course, Ji-yu knew that the other party was following him like a shadow, but he didn't care at all. He was now preparing to go to the place where the Heaven Yuan list was located to see which core student he would choose as his opponent. About 10 minutes later, Ji-yu found the Qian Yuan list, and Qi Ling-er followed her shamelessly. The Qian Yuan ranking was an enormous stone tablet, and 10 names were inscribed on it like dragons flying and phoenixes flying. Ji-yu's gaze subconsciously fell on the first name at the top of the list. Qi Ling-er. I wonder what kind of strength this Qi Ling-er has. Ji-yu thought to himself. Since Qi Ling-er had not introduced herself to Ji-yu, he had no idea that the girl behind him was Qi Ling-er. See, I'm the one who's ranked first. At this moment, Qi Ling-er walked up to them and pointed at the top of the list proudly. Although she had no idea why Qi Ling-er would come here, she couldn't help but show off. Upon hearing this, Ji-yu was dumbfounded. You're Qi Ling-er? What do you think? I'm amazing, right? Qi Ling-er said with a smile when she saw the shocked expression on Ji-yu's face. No. Aren't the disciples of the Qian Yuan martial mansion a little too weak? Ji-yu couldn't help but ask. He didn't expect that this girl who was only at the 7th level of the defensive profound realm was Qi Ling-er, who was ranked first on the Qian Yuan list. She was at the 7th level of the defensive profound realm, so she was someone he could easily defeat. However, she was indeed ranked first on the Qian Yuan list. It could be said that the disciples of the Qian Yuan martial mansion were too weak. What did you say? Qi Ling-er said unhappily. Chapter 170. I'm just saying that you guys are too weak. Even you can be ranked first, Ji-yu said without any hesitation. You. Not only do you look down on the martial palace, but you even dare to look down on me. Qi Ling-er said angrily. No, I'm just speaking the truth, Ji-yu said with an indifferent expression. So, you think you're very powerful? Do you dare to have a match with me? Qi Ling-er said provocatively. Why wouldn't I dare? Ji-yu said indifferently. It just so happens that Mansion Master Murong gave me a chance to challenge a core disciple. I'll use this chance on you. Oh, it seems like you're quite confident. Then, I'll accept your challenge. Qi Ling-er said with a smile. However, since we're going to have a match, there's no way we can skip the bet. Go ahead. Ji-yu said indifferently. If I win, not only will you have to apologize to me, but you'll also have to become my slave and listen to my every command. Qi Ling-er said, if you win, you can decide what you want. After all, it's impossible for you to win against me. Ji-yu could only smile at Qi Ling-er's confidence. I don't have any demands if I win. All I want is for you to hand over the core disciple position to me, Ji-yu said casually. From the beginning to the end, he did not mind at all. After all, he could easily defeat Qi Ling-er even if he only used one hand. All right, it's settled then. Qi Ling-er said, as for the date of the duel, it'll be tomorrow. There's still 1 day left, so you should repent for your mistakes. Ji-yu smiled but did not say a word. There was no need for him to stay here any longer, so he turned around and left. The corners of Qi Ling-er's mouth curled up slightly. When the time came, she would look for this lecture to settle the score from yesterday. At this moment, Ji-yu was on his way back to his dorm. Since he was about to become a core disciple, there was no need for him to attend those so-called classes anymore. Although core disciples were also inner disciples, the cultivation resources they could enjoy were on a completely different level. If the difference between an outer palace student and an inner palace student was 1 level, then the difference between a core student and an inner palace student was at least 10 levels. Most of the cultivation resources in the Chenyuan martial house were concentrated on the 10 core disciples. When the time came and he had the cultivation resources, why would he need to attend classes? Not long after, Ji-yu returned to the dormitory and began to practice martial arts leisurely. Tomorrow's duel with Qi Ling was not stressful for him at all. He could eat and sleep as he pleased. After an unknown amount of time, Ji-yu was halfway through her cultivation when there was another series of knocks on the door. F***CK, could it be that Qi Ling again? However, Ji-yu still walked over and opened the door. After all, it could be Jiang Yuchu or Jiang Yushin. When she opened the door, Ji-yu immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The person outside the door was Jiang Yushin. Fortunately, it was you who came. Ji-yu could not help but say. If that woman, Qi Ling came again, he was afraid that he would really lose his temper. That woman was as annoying as she could be. Why do you say that? Jiang Yushin felt a little puzzled and asked. Nothing. Ji-yu shook her head and said. Jiang Yushin did not pay much attention to it. Then, she said, by the way, where did you go? My sister and I came to find you, but you were not here. I had something to do, so I went out. Ji-yu explained. He did not tell Jiang Yushin about Mansion Master Murong. Although he had broken the promise with Jiang Yushin, he did not want Jiang Yushin to worry about him. After all, he could easily win tomorrow's duel. Well, my sister and I wanted to ask you to go to class with us, but you were not here. So, we had to go first. Jiang Yushin said, and you did not go to class just now. Is that okay? It's okay. Ji-yu said, by the way, what class did you guys have just now? Martial arts class. The lecturer was quite good. At this time, Jiang Yushin muttered in a low voice, although I didn't really hear it. Martial arts class. Ji-yu thought that there was indeed no need to listen to it. Did he need anyone to teach him martial arts? When there were more interesting or useful courses, he would consider whether or not to take a look. Chapter 171. On the same day, the news that Ji-yu was going to duel with Qi Ling spread throughout the entire Chenyuan martial mansion. Many disciples were wondering who Qi Ling opponent was. They had never heard of the name Ji-yu before. Although Ji-yu had become quite famous in the Kanglan Empire after the entrance exam and the alchemy conference, most of the disciples in the Chenyuan martial mansion rarely left the mansion. Therefore, the news had not reached their ears yet. In their view, it was impossible for Ji-yu to be a match for Qi Ling. After all, Qi Ling was not only the disciple of the mansion master, but she was also the first on the Chenyuan list. Her strength was much stronger than the second on the list. In the entire Chenyuan martial mansion, there was no one who could defeat Qi Ling, let alone a person whom they had never heard of. Of course, the news had also spread to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. At this time, Ji-yu was still cultivating leisurely. They immediately came to find him. Ji-yu, what did you do this time? Jiang Yushin asked. I didn't cause any trouble. Ji-yu was confused at first, but he soon realized what Jiang Yushin was referring to. Oh, you must be talking about the duel between me and Qi Ling. He did not expect Qi Ling to be so flamboyant. She spread the news so quickly that even Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin knew about it. He was speechless. Yes. I heard that Qi Ling is the strongest disciple in the Chenyuan martial mansion. Why did you provoke her? Jiang Yushin said. It's just a small matter. Don't worry so much. Ji-yu said casually, if I say that she is no match for me, would you believe me? I know you are strong, but don't be so complacent. No matter what, she is the first on the Chenyuan list. Jiang Yushin reminded him. After hearing what Ji-yu said, she wasn't so worried anymore. After all, she was quite confident in Ji-yu's strength. Yes, I'll be careful. Ji-yu nodded. Let's not talk about this for now. At this time, Jiang Yuxin's eyes sharpened. She stared straight at Ji-yu and said, what I'm most curious about is, how did you provoke Qi Ling? Ji-yu was speechless for a moment. How should he explain this? I do need to ask about this. Jiang Yuchu said seriously, Maybe Ji Yu was caught by Qi Ling while she was bathing. Hearing Jiang Yuechu's words, the corners of Ji Yu's mouth twitched and cold sweat appeared on her face. He was shocked. How could Jiang Yuechu guess that? He didn't tell anyone about it at all. With Qi Ling character, it was impossible for her to reveal it. Looking at Ji Yu's humble appearance, even Jiang Yuechu was stunned. Ji Yu, don't tell me you really went to peek at someone bathing? Jiang Yuechu asked in disbelief. It's completely different. I just bumped into her by accident. I didn't take the initiative to peek. Ji Yu explained, besides, how could I know that someone would bathe in the maple forest? Normal people wouldn't bathe there, right? So, you looked at her body? Jiang Yushin didn't care so much. She only cared about the result. If I have to say, I did. Ji Yu said truthfully. You pervert. Jiang Yushin gritted her teeth slightly. She seemed to be angry. I won't care about you anymore. Even if you are beaten into a fool by Qi Ling, I won't care about you anymore. After saying that, Jiang Yushin left angrily. In fact, she wasn't really angry. It was just that when she heard Ji Yu admit that he had looked at Qi Ling's body, she felt very uncomfortable. Yushin is just saying that. She still cares about you very much. At the same time, Jiang Yuechu looked at her younger sister's back and said to Ji Yu at the same time. I know. Ji Yu nodded. But you're really too much. Can't you just apologize properly after looking at someone's body? Why did you have to make such a big fuss? Jiang Yuechu rebuked Ji Yu. No, you don't know how bad that Qi Ling's personality is. Ji Yu couldn't help but say, although I didn't apologize, that woman wouldn't let it go even if I did. All right. Jiang Yuechu didn't argue with Ji Yu. She said casually, anyway, you just have to be careful tomorrow. After all, it had already happened. There was no point in saying anything else. Chapter 172. After Jiang Yuechu left, Ji Yu continued to practice martial arts. Ding. Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience points gained, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation experience points gained, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Martial arts cultivation experience has reached the late stage of the 7th level of the defensive profound realm. It was late at night when Ji Yu finally reached the late stage of the 7th level of the defensive profound realm from the middle stage of the 7th level. It was just the right time to sleep. The next day, Ji Yu arrived at the arena of the Chenyuan martial house at the appointed time with Qi Ling. It was a huge arena. Normally, the students of the martial house would not use it casually. It was only opened to the public for special duels. Qi Ling was the disciple of the martial house master and the top of the Chenyuan list. No matter who she was going to fight with, it would be a big event that would shake the entire martial house. For example, today, a large group of students of the martial house had gathered here, including many core students who had come to watch. When Ji Yu arrived, he did not attract anyone's attention. After all, almost no one present could recognize him. Until Ji Yu stepped into the arena with a calm face, he instantly attracted countless gazes. Who is this guy? Why is he in the arena? Is he Ji Yu? It should be him. I thought he would be a powerful figure, but it turns out that he is just a gigolo. Is this gigolo here to be a joke? I think he can't even withstand one move from Qi Ling. He is so boring. There were at least hundreds of people around, and almost no one thought that Ji Yu would win. Only Jiang Yuechu and Jiang Yushin in the crowd firmly believed that Ji Yu would not lose. Although Jiang Yushin said that she didn't care about Ji Yu yesterday, her body was very honest. Today, she came to see Ji Yu early. At this time, Ji Yu also noticed Jiang Yuechu and Jiang Yushin and smiled at them. It was at this moment that Qi Ling seemed to have arrived as well, causing a huge commotion in the surroundings. Oh, I didn't expect you to come at the right time. Are you in such a hurry to become this lady's slave? When Qi Ling saw Ji Yu on the other side of the stage, she smiled. Ji-yu ignored Qi Ling-er again, not replying to her at all. However, in Qi Ling-er's eyes, it was as if Ji-yu had admitted defeat. She immediately felt smug. Ling-er, you picked this brat as your opponent. Why don't you let me compete with you instead? However, a gloomy voice suddenly came from below the stage. A young man with a sinister face walked to the side of the stage. From his tone, it seemed that he didn't care about Ji-yu at all. Wu Xie, who is ranked second on the Qian Yuan list, is also here. As expected, he won't miss this battle. That's for sure. I've heard that Wu Xie is interested in Qi Ling-er for a long time. Every time Qi Ling-er duels with others, he has always been there. I have to say that senior Wu Xie and Qi Ling-er are quite compatible. His martial arts strength isn't too far away from Qi Ling-er's. The crowd started to discuss among themselves. Scram to the side. This is none of your business. Qi Ling-er frowned slightly, and her beautiful eyes were filled with disgust. Moreover, I'm not familiar with you. Don't call me by that disgusting name. Ling-er, you're still so heartless. Wu Xie shook his head sadly, but he didn't seem to be angry. Qi Ling-er ignored Wu Xie and looked at Ji-yu again. The rules of this battle are very simple. As long as one side steps out of the boundary, loses the ability to move, or takes the initiative to admit defeat, the other side will be considered the winner. Do you have any objections? Ji-yu shook his head and didn't say anything. All right. Qi Ling-er smiled slightly. Then, let the battle begin. There was no referee for this battle because Qi Ling-er was so arrogant that she didn't think there was a need for one. She could easily defeat her opponent, so why would she need to hire a referee? Ji-yu's expression remained calm. The moment Qi Ling-er shouted, "Let the battle begin," he dashed toward Qi Ling-er at a speed that couldn't be seen by the naked eye. Ding! Master has used the high-level profound rank skill Thousand Illusions Myriad Flash. Experience gained from the high-level profound rank skill Thousand Illusions Myriad Flash, 400 by 999 times. In the blink of an eye, Ji-yu appeared in front of Qi Ling-er. However, Qi Ling-er didn't realize what had happened at all. She still had a confident smile on her face. Chapter 173. Your reaction speed is so slow. It doesn't match your confident appearance at all. At this moment, Qi Ling-er suddenly realized that Ji-yu was already right in front of her. Her eyes narrowed in shock. She could not believe that the other party was so fast. Ding! Master has executed the low-level mystic skill, Mountain Quaking Fist. Middle-level mystic skill, All-Suppressing Fist. Obtained, experience points, 200 by 999 times. Ji-yu did not execute the most powerful all-suppressing fist. Instead, he executed the low-level mystic skill, Mountain Quaking Fist, and he only used 30% of his strength. He lightly punched Qi Ling-er's lower abdomen. Qi Ling-er was unable to react in time, and she was hit squarely by Ji-yu's punch. With a cough, she immediately bowed down like a shrimp. An unbearable pain came from her lower abdomen, and Qi Ling-er's face turned pale. F***CK. Aren't you a little too weak? Ji-yu was dumbfounded by the sight before him. Furthermore, he had only used 30% of his strength. If he had not held back, wouldn't he have crippled Qi Ling-er with a single punch? His original intention was not to beat Qi Ling-er up badly. Instead, he wanted to make Qi Ling-er realize the difference in their strength. That way, Qi Ling-er would admit defeat. After all, no matter how terrible Qi Ling-er's personality was, in Ji-yu's eyes, she was still an insensible little girl. Furthermore, Qi Ling-er was Clan Master Murong's disciple. If anything happened to her, it would be troublesome for him. At the same time, everyone below the ring was dumbfounded. Their jaws dropped to the ground, and they were at a loss for words. The entire crowd fell silent. The scene that happened on the stage just now was completely different from what they had expected. Initially, they thought that Qi Ling-er would be able to defeat Zhong Xian easily. They did not expect that Qi Ling-er would be the one to be defeated instead. Who in the world was this young man named Ji-yu? At this moment, Qi Ling-er heard Ji-yu's voice. She gritted her teeth and said, Don't underestimate me. Do you know that I only used 30% of my strength in that punch? Ji-yu said calmly. Hearing those words, the light in Qi Ling-er's eyes dimmed. It was as if she had started to doubt her own existence. I don't have time to play with you anymore. Let's end this. Following Ji-yu's indifferent voice, another mountain-shaking fist blasted out. However, this time, not only did he not increase his strength, he even reduced his strength by 10%. 20% of his strength wasn't enough to beat Qi Ling-er too badly. Looking at Ji-yu's terrifying fist, the last line of defense in Qi Ling-er's heart crumbled. She was afraid of pain, but what scared her the most was that she couldn't imagine how miserable her opponent's punch would make her. No, don't. She collapsed to the ground and cried out in despair. Seeing the tears in Qi Ling-er's eyes, Ji-yu's eyes widened in shock as she retracted her fist. Then, he flicked his finger lightly on Qi Ling-er's forehead. This time, he was completely powerless. Qi Ling-er's eyes were still tightly shut in fear when she suddenly felt a light flick on her forehead. She subconsciously held onto her forehead as she opened her eyes and looked at Ji-yu in confusion. You. Why? This. Qi Ling-er muttered with a dazed look on her face. You're already crying. How can I bear to do it? Ji-yu was speechless. Hurry up and admit defeat. Don't waste any more time. However, this didn't mean that he would go easy on anyone. Qi Ling-er was just a little bad-tempered. Besides, he was the one who had seen her body first. However, if it was a woman who had a blood feud with him, no matter how beautiful she was, he wouldn't go easy on her at all. It was only after hearing Ji-yu's words that Qi Ling-er realized that she was really crying. She quickly wiped her tears away. Then, she decisively admitted defeat. Then, from today onward, I'll be taking over your position. Do as you see fit. After saying those words, Ji-yu turned around and prepared to leave. Wait a minute, but at this moment, Qi Ling-er called out to Ji-yu in a weak voice. Is there anything else? Ji-yu was confused. It was very unusual for Qi Ling-er to speak in such a tone. Can you carry me back? Qi Ling-er blushed. She was too embarrassed to look Ji-yu in the eye. She was obviously a shy little girl. She covered her face with one hand and covered the bottom of her skirt with the other. Ji-yu was stunned for a while before he finally reacted. Holy **T, don't tell me you're. Halfway through his words, Qi Ling-er suddenly pushed him to the ground and covered his mouth. Don't say it out loud. Qi Ling-er was so embarrassed that she scolded him softly. All right, I won't say it out loud. Can you get up first? Ji-yu said awkwardly. Being pressed down by Qi Ling-er, he felt a warm and wet sensation on his pants. Sure enough, just as he had expected, Qi Ling-er had wet her pants. Please, I beg of you. Carry me back. Qi Ling-er's face was so red that it was about to drip water. If others found out that she had wet her pants, she really didn't want to live anymore. So, she lowered her proud head and begged Ji-yu for help. Chapter 174. What's going on? Seeing how Qi Ling-er had pinned Ji-yu to the ground, the crowd was dumbfounded once more. Didn't Qi Ling-er admit defeat? Furthermore, wasn't that young man named Ji-yu very powerful? Why was he being suppressed by Qi Ling-er instead? Wu Xie's expression was both shocked and awful. He was shocked that Qi Ling-er had admitted defeat so quickly. As for why his expression was awful, it was because of the intimate posture between Qi Ling-er and Ji-yu. In the arena, Ji-yu sighed. You rascal. Wouldn't it have been better if you just admitted defeat earlier? He did not expect that Qi Ling-er would be so frightened that she would wet her pants. However, if he had not thrown that punch earlier, Qi Ling-er would not have admitted defeat so obediently. After muttering to himself, Ji-yu squatted down and gestured for Qi Ling-er to come closer. Qi Ling-er's face was filled with embarrassment as she was forced to lie on Ji-yu's back helplessly. This was the first time in her life that she had had such intimate contact with a strange man. This was especially so when her cold lower body came into contact with Ji-yu's back. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole and bury herself in it. Did you manage to hold on tight? Jiyu asked. He knew that the clothes on his back were already dirty, but he did not mention it. I'm done. Qi Ling wrapped her legs around Jiyu's waist and wrapped her arms around Jiyu's neck as she replied shyly. At this moment, she lowered her head and rested her forehead gently on the back of Jiyu's neck. I'll be leaving then. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiyu executed his movement skill and left the arena. He felt that he had already taught Qi Ling a lesson today. There was no need for him to embarrass her in front of so many people. After all, it was not a small matter for a top genius to wet her pants during a battle. Ding. Master has used the high-level profound rank skill 1000 illusions myriad flash. Experience gained from the high-level profound rank skill 1000 illusions myriad flash, 400 by 999 times. In just a few breaths' time, Jiyu arrived at the maple forest where she had first met Qi Ling. I'll leave you here. Go and clean yourself up. Jiyu put down Qi Ling on his back and said indifferently. With that, he left the maple forest. Ding. Master has used the high-level profound rank skill 1000 illusions myriad flash. Experience gained from the high-level profound rank skill 1000 illusions myriad flash, 400 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master for successfully breaking through to the initial stage of the profound rank high-grade profound skill 1000 illusions myriad flash. At the same time, his movement technique had also improved. Qi Ling was about to say something when she found that Jiyu had disappeared. She immediately sat on the ground and covered her red and hot face with her hands. Her heart was filled with shame and despair. I can't get married. I really can't get married. Not only had her body been seen by him, but she had also wet her pants in front of him today. In comparison, winning or losing was a small matter. Today, Jiyu had replaced Qi Ling as the new number 1 on the Chen Yuan list. He was also the new number 1 core disciple in the Chen Yuan martial house. Now, he was completely famous in the Chen Yuan martial house. Almost every disciple in the Chen Yuan martial house had heard of Jiyu. The news of him forcing Qi Ling to admit defeat with just 2 punches had spread throughout the Chen Yuan martial house. Many elders in the Chen Yuan martial house guessed that Jiyu was the same person who had made a name for himself in the alchemy conference. Therefore, they all came to visit Jiyu. During this period of time, Jiyu received many greeting gifts from the various elders. There were elixirs, weapons, cultivation techniques, materials, and so on. However, there were no gold coins. As for why there were no gold coins, it was because the common currency in the Chen Yuan martial house was something called contribution points. It was said that in order to ensure balance, the Chen Yuan martial house only allowed students to use contribution points to make transactions. Originally, Jiyu was thinking about how to deal with these things. After a few days, Qi Ling came to visit again. Why are you here again? Jiyu said with a face full of misfortune. He thought that it would be Jiang Yuchu or Jiang Yushan. He did not expect that it would be Qi Ling who he had not seen for a few days. What do you mean by that expression and tone? Qi Ling said angrily, how dare you embarrass me in front of so many people last time? I won't let you off so easily. She was extremely embarrassed when she thought about what had happened last time. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.